under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Is there any? I don't believe we have any additions to the agenda, do we? What do we have? We have supplementary material. Do we have new items?
We need to set the budget hearing,
Oh, thank you very much. Yes.
and,
Let me mark that set hearing.
and we have a request from our DPW superintendent to table item number 15,
Is there any objection?
because the investigation is ongoing.
Is there any objection from the board to table 15?
No.
All right.
No,
So
I saw.
tabled.
SUNY New Paltz is here and has requested, could they please be moved to the front of the line for timing?
Yeah, we're gonna do triage. So I know there's a group of people, some people here for various things, so we try to get the biggest group out sooner. So we'll see who's what. But we'll respect those requests as much as possible.
Also, representatives from NAMI are here.
Yes.
The Historic Huguenot Society has asked permission to close a road, and the
Do we have
library-
paperwork for that?
We do.
For everyone or just one
Oh, we
copy?
have one right this second.
You wanna read it first?
Sure.
And the budget,
Yeah.
Mike, I asked for a change in the agenda to move.
Well, let's wait for the moving for a second. Let's make sure we have all the items first,
Oh, okay.
and then we'll do who goes first.
Do you have anything to report on this proposed hotel for the kids? No. Okay.
Way too early.
All
Yeah.
right. Take that off.
So the budget hearing,
We just have to set the date for our next meeting.
That's all I have to ask.
I'm thinking that since we have representatives from NAMI here and we have a discussion on the agenda.
We'll get all that at once.
But we should also take it off the consent agenda because there might
Okay.
be questions or contingencies.
Sounds good.
On either end, ours or theirs.
Perfect.
Based
Great
on
idea.
what we, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
And the library, with the library walking the dog event, which is on the consent agenda, would like to put up signs. I don't see anything in the code that would prevent them, but as a courtesy, they just wanted to run it by the board to make sure that it was all right with the board. I have
Okay.
copies of the sign if you need it.
Okay, well, just pass it down.
Okay.
All right,
can we add this to the consent agenda?
I think that would be appropriate.
Yep, I'm into that.
Let's just
Here you go.
give Sally a second to read that. Thank you.
Adding the Huguenot Street request.
So is this on private property?
Yes.
Okay,
Then we don't need to do it.
That's
It's
what I-
none of our business.
we'll
Okay.
put this on the consent
No,
agenda.
they're using Huguenot Street.
No. I was talking about something else. A sign.
The walking the dog event,
It's
yeah.
on Huguenot Street.
But they just want to put it on sign.
The signs
The
are on
signs will be on private property.
The signs have nothing to do with us, the walkers. So is there any objection to adding this HHS to the consent agenda?
No.
All right.
It's an
Thank you.
annual Easter egg hunt.
I'll move the agenda.
I'll second.
We're okay
All in
with that.
favor?
Aye.
Public comment comes first. Anyone have, yes? Oh, wait, hold on one second. One little caveat to public comment. Tonight, we're going to be setting the public hearing on the agenda, public hearing on the budget. I understand, I don't know if there's someone here to speak to the budget, but it would actually be much more helpful if you were planning on speaking tonight, if you would come to the public hearing so we can hear all the comments at the same time, so that could inform our decisions. Just not to shut you off. If you have something, if you can't make it, for example, or you'd have something you're really pressing, of course you can say it, but it might be helpful to us if we had all the budget comments at the public hearing.
I find it helpful to hear them before we make decisions on the budget, before we set a public hearing on
Okay.
the budget, so.
So now you got
please,
two opinions, either way. So who would like to speak now and hold your peace till later? Yeah, Miriam.
And I don't know if you're going to be discussing renewable energy more than the natural gas conversion.
We will be, yes.
Okay, I'd like to make a brief statement. Hi, my name's Miriam Strauss.
Could you hold on one second, Miriam? Let John and Amy get settled so everyone can hear you.
Thank you.
Of course.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. How did you know it was my birthday?
This is my birthday too.
Oh, I forgot this is your birthday.
Happy birthday!
Yeah, well, happy birthday to you, John. Yeah.
How ironic.
Might we all sing happy birthday to both the mayor?
Is that why we have donuts?
Yes.
Right now.
Yes.
Sing.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday,
Happy birthday to you.
Thanks. I'm 23 and I have been for years. I think Aunt Shirley's been 29 for 40 years, actually. So here, Aunt, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, don't ask me to say what's Anyway, hi, my name's Miriam Strauss, and I submitted a brief written comment recently about the natural gas conversion in the energy audit. I want to applaud you for moving ahead with the energy audit. My comment is sort of to amplify that a little bit, to frame it in terms of the pending New York State draft energy plan, which is recommending the state get half its energy from renewables by the middle of the century, by 2050. But in order to reach that goal, there's a question about the sensibility, or whether it makes sense to rely on natural gas. And part of the recent findings about natural gas is that if you actually, they're reassessing what the inadvertent methane emissions are, and because those emissions are much higher than they realize, and because it's a much more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide, they've determined that it's actually no cleaner than coal, so that the arguments about converting as environmental positives, because it nominally burns cleaner, really aren't holding water. And there's the question of price volatility as you enter into a global market, which is what the intention is if they build out the infrastructure. And then there's the question of, if we're putting the money into that infrastructure, then we're not putting it into renewables. There's a inevitable trade-off. So I'm just imploring the board to look at alternatives, if necessary, to defer the decision about converting while they're buttoning this building up and the other facilities up. And incidentally, working on the building codes, making it as green as you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. May I ask you a question?
Sure.
Miriam, because this gets the crux of my concern about the issue. Accepting the fact that whenever we flip the switch right now, we're using off the common pot, off the grid of a mixture of nuclear, coal, oil, solar, wind, whatever. It's just a matter of what percentages. Taking for granted that natural gas and coal are just as bad, right? Since we're using coal anyway, since that's about 60% of our electricity. Does cost play a factor in your concern? Like, if we could get the same dirtiness for cheaper, isn't that a better, even though we want clean?
Well, it's better, except if you're investing in the infrastructure, it's not just at the statewide level. If you're investing in the infrastructure at the level of this building, then you're putting aside the opportunity to invest in other technologies as they increase in price. Yeah, right. That would be easy. As they decrease in price and availability. I mean, they're starting to develop amazing things in terms of biomimicking battery technologies. I mean, there's the technology in the energy field is evolving so rapidly that to me, it may turn out to be financially the right decision down the road, but it feels very premature to me to jump into this.
Sure.
You know, and I've been sold life insurance. I know what it's good sales.
Thank you very much. Other public comment? Ira.
Thank you. I presume that the trustees are aware of the devastating law that the Congress had passed regarding energy, electrical energy, making this area a specialized area, which is going to increase the electric rates by 35%. Now, I know, unfortunately, when you're dealing with politicians at that level, you know, they don't care, they can't respond. Obviously, I don't know if anything that you people can do or recommend, but as one of the, I would say, few remaining senior citizens in this town and village who can afford, I say that because all my friends are gone. They could no longer afford to live. Now you have the college with their tax, they want that tax-free. They just bought another piece of property next to the college, which is now non-taxable. Then bringing in, depending upon who they're talking to, it's either tax-free New York or startup New York. You know, when you're dealing with the people who have to pay for this, it's startup New York. When they're dealing with the people they want to bring here, it's tax-free New York. And it's just so much. I mean, you know the actual taxpayers based upon the exemptions that are in the village. So the actual taxpayers are very little. So the more this kind of stuff happens, the less people who are on fixed incomes or assistance or whatever can afford it. I mean, right now, people on fixed incomes have to make decisions on what they want to do, what they don't want to do. A lot of people who are on Social Security don't get assistance because of the cutoffs. I mean, if you take the average recipient of benefits, who get actual benefits, not Social Security, it equates to about $46,000 worth of goodies, or whatever you want to call it. You take the average person who's on Social Security, he doesn't get anything. Now, if you recall, what happens is food stamps were raised because the price of food went up. But that doesn't consider into the senior citizens' budgets. It's ignored. And what I'm saying is this kind of a thing, with everything else that's going on, is really, really going to hurt people like me and other seniors who are here. As I said, I can only go by empirical evidence. Most of my friends can no longer live here. And in order to move to other places, they had to do things like give up their companions, because most places don't allow them. I'm in one of the few places that does. And I don't know if the village trustees or the town board could do anything to assist in pushing that they revoke this. I mean, it's absurd. You pick out a specific area and you put it into an area like this, where they're pushing this tax-free, and what are people supposed to do? I mean, there's just so much. Even the working people, there's just so much. I mean, you know, you have to go to your boss and ask for a raise, and he's going to say no. Then what do you do? And this is, to me, corporate welfare. It's welfare for the state, i.e. the college. It's welfare for the businesses, you know, corporate welfare. And I don't have, you know, why should a specific little group of people, like this little area that they picked out, have to bear the budget? Here, you know, you want a tax-free New York? You know what, New York? Take it out of the general populace. Let everybody in New York put their share in. Why should only a few people, for specialized people who can make deals with politicians and all the backroom deals, why should they have to pay? I liken it, if you will, as give me a chance to make an analogy or whatever.
An analogy.
And then, yeah, I'm on Social Security, and you have people on Social Security and you have people on disability. People on disability, those that really need it, should get the help. But nobody can tell me why they have to take it out of the Social Security fund instead of the general fund. It's the same thing with this nonsense with Startup New York. You want to do this, you want to have this big fancy thing, you can't compete with the other states because your taxes are too high. Why ask a little group of people, as is what they're doing now with subsidizing Central Hudson, to pay for it, as opposed to the whole pot? I would have no problem, you know, I mean, I would have a problem still, but instead of paying $10, I wind up paying $1. And that's why I'm asking, and I don't know if you can get involved in it, but I'm asking if you can, to possibly send a letter, a resolution, or whatever, that you don't think it's fair to the citizen, to the senior citizens, or even all the citizens within your, you know, within the village or town. You know, talk to the town board about the town, to have to subsidize Central Hudson. It's obscene. Thank you.
Well, let me give you two brief responses. One is that I'm going to defer to Shelley and to Rich on some of this as SUNY representatives. But in terms of the energy costs, separate from the startup New York, I know that the latest billing has doubled the rates locally. Just so the public is aware, it's something that I'm researching. The board is aware that I'm researching it. I don't know enough yet, but what I'm hoping is that there might be the possibility of creating a public power utility, because I understand two facts about how those laws work. And where I'm at now is I'm asking the village attorney to confirm what I know, and then I'll try to find some volunteers to help me fill in the details. But two things to kind of keep in the back of your head. One is to form a public power authority, you don't need to actually generate electricity. You need to simply own the transmission and distribution lines, which means we could buy them from Central Hudson or take them by eminent domain, which basically means buy them at market value. Second is that from a colleagues up in the St. Lawrence River Valley, where they did this 30 years ago, the state of New York, if you have a public power authority, by law, the state of New York must sell you electricity at wholesale rates, which means that if it's just a matter of, like, for example, we do water billing, which doesn't cost us very much. We just have the list and we just print the bills and we send them out. If it's similar to that, what we saw in the St. Lawrence Valley is that even those communities that didn't generate electricity saw a drop of 75% in their electricity rates simply by having the local government provided at wholesale rates rather than the private market with the golden parachutes and the corporate whatever and all the other bells and whistles that go into it. So I'm looking into it. It's not going to be enough to help anybody right now, but hopefully
that's all.
Hopefully down the road it's something we could explore, and that could help that facet of it.
Yeah.
The tax abatement part is a bigger question, and we're going to talk about part of that
Yeah,
tonight.
I'm just using that only because of the fact that, as you said, the electricity is going up 35%. Even if you get assistance, it doesn't go up.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. My gas from my landlord, I pay $15 for my gas, and I have to pay him $50 for his use of gas. Because, and I can't get the figures on that yet, so I don't want, but that's again because of the pricing. And that's why I'm saying, I don't know what could be done. What you're saying is great. I just figured.
One piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it'll be a longer conversation. Withhold judgment till we have a look. It's on the agenda. We're going to talk about that Startup New York a little bit, even just very briefly tonight. So Mike, I think I saw you as well.
Sure, yeah. I'm glad we're talking about electric rates, because I'm here to once again appeal to the board, because in 6 months since they switched, the city of Hudson has saved $26,000, and they've got 100% wind. So I figured I'd bring that to your attention.
That's a very compelling statistic.
Even more compelling is
Could you,
that
for the audience, could you tell what you're heading up, who you are?
of Viridian Energy, and it's a company that, I mean, there's a third-party industry, because I'm sure you've all seen on your bills that you have the right to choose where your supply comes from. And what this company has done is said, well, you shouldn't have to choose between sustainability and affordability. They've created a hybrid product. And it's
And you'd like the village to be a partner in that?
very much so, yes. I'm sorry, I only made 5 of them. I don't know what I was thinking. I also put here, you'll see the top is a bill comparison for P&Gs who switched 9 months ago. They've saved $3,374 in that period of time. The savings are considerable, and everybody likes to save money, but what I think is even more impressive is that this company is just shy of 5 years old, and collectively our customers have already prevented billions of pounds of carbon emissions from going into the atmosphere. Makes me pretty happy to be part of it. I actually signed up myself as a customer in 2011. I've saved several $100s on my bill, which is a beautiful thing, but again, I would have said, all things being equal, give me the green power. It's really making a difference, and Hudson signed up, this was the middle of last year, and we actually have 2 products. It's the hybrid product I was telling you about, but there's also 100% wind, which is traditionally a little bit more expensive. They signed on with 100% wind and have saved $26,000. And the last piece of the puzzle is that the New Paltz Community Foundation was actually working with me as a part of what I'm doing with Viridian, and anything that gets signed up underneath them, it's essentially go green, save the village money, make the community foundation money. So I'd love to continue this conversation some other time. Just
Question, how did they go to all wind?
There's 2 different products that we offer.
Okay.
The hybrid product is 50% above the state mandate. The state mandates, like if you have Central Hudson, you're getting a minimum of 4% renewable energy. So our hybrid product, which is what's traditionally saving our customers money, is 54% renewable. We also offer 100% wind, which is typically a little bit higher than the utility.
Right.
But at the time that they locked in, it was lower by a lot. than
Just
where
so
they are
people
now.
know, it's everything Mike said is accurate that I'm aware of, obviously. But to get back to tie it to what Miriam said, when you say 100% wind, it's sort of that. What people forget is that the entire power grid is like a big pot.
Yes.
So you dump in all the nuclear, coal, wind, solar, everything into one big pot. So when you flip the light switch, if 1% of the electricity in New York State is generated by solar, when we flip the light switch, 1% of this is solar. So when you're saying 100% wind, it's you're purchasing your usage worth of, you're adding your usage worth of wind to the
Precisely.
common pot.
The way I like to
So that's,
Central Hudson and other utilities, they manage what's commonly referred to as the grid. And so let's say, we all live on the same block, and I'm a Veridian customer, and you're with Central Hudson, and you're with North American, and you're with Ambit. The lines that come into our house, we're all getting the same energy. It's all coming out of the grid that's managed by Central Hudson. The difference is what fed the grid? Where did this energy come from in the first place? And how much did you pay for that energy to be generated and fed into the grid? And so that's where we're keeping the cost down and keeping it green. And it's a beautiful thing.
Okay, might I ask that we put Michael on the agenda for the first meeting in April?
yes, I would love that with one caveat. Could you get us all of the paperwork and contracts that would be required?
Absolutely.
Get us dummies of everything, and so we can have our lawyers. If you could get it to me sooner rather than later, I'll have our attorneys look it over before our next meeting in 2 weeks.
Our next meeting is on April 9th, so the Thursday before then is when we generally start gathering information
I'm
for the
gonna have
packet.
to get anything I can for you, because I would always say that I'll make myself available when we're out, but I'm actually gonna be out of the country from the 1st to the 8th.
At your,
I could be here
at your,
and I'll get
at your convenience, Mr.
You got
Katz.
it.
At your convenience, Mr.
Yeah,
Katz.
if you could get it to us before you go, then we'll be all set with the
Thank you
information.
very much, yes, I will make that happen for sure.
I'll send you our attorney's email address.
Hold on, wait, hold on. Only because I can't hear. Sally and Rebecca are both saying something at the same time. Sally
Let's make
first.
it the second meeting in April, if that is better for Mike.
I'll make this happen.
Okay.
All about it. I'll get
And your comment?
before I go.
No, I would just told him that I'd also share the
Okay.
Will's email with him.
Oh, thank you,
directly.
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
Just expedite
I'm gonna get through everyone one time before we go again. Rachel, yes, please.
Well, I want to say that I agree with what Miriam has said, and I feel that especially since the village passed a resolution against hydrofracking, that natural gas would sort of contravene the spirit of that, because it's sort of like you can't eat meat without killing animals. It's trying to get natural gas without contributing to the demand that causes fracking, pretty much impossible. And the other thing that you said was that you're trading between like a mixed pot of something and something that you know is dirty. Well, the mixed bag here of sources of electricity is better than something that you know is completely dirty, the natural gas. Because at least you still have
You mean
options.
as compared to coal, you mean?
As compared to coal, as compared to, as even if you're comparing electricity that comes from many sources, including solar and wind and any other options that are open to you, if you compare that to natural gas, which you know is dirty, it's not like you're just comparing two dirty things. You're comparing something that's partly could be made cleaner and it's only partly dirty, and something you know is dirty. So it seems to me like your option you'd be better off leaving yourselves open and also not investing in all the infrastructure for another fossil fuel like that.
Right. Thanks, Rachel.
You're welcome.
Yes, you're back. Hi.
I'm here to talk about a different subject. This is the state of Church Street. George is also here, he's my neighbor. Many residents of
Beth,
Church
would you stand up so we can hear you better?
Sure. Many residents of Church Street feel that it's become really unsafe and an uncomfortable place to live. There's been a lot of building going on that's packed a lot of people into a very small space, and there's some non-conforming driveways and things that are really clogging up the traffic. But one of the problems is the increase in noise and just kind of like a general lawlessness that we're facing on the street. We wake up with tons of trash in our yards. And I think one of the scariest things is that we don't know when to react to something serious happening outside. There's many times where I jump out of bed because somebody screams something, and it sometimes sounds like a fight, and sometimes it is like a little bit of brawling, but sometimes it's nothing, and it's
Just
not,
excitement. Or
Yeah, it's,
whatever?
well, it's a lot of yelling and a lot of profanity. It's not just, you know, like when I lived in the city, I lived in a really busy area, and it's nothing like that. It's like screaming and chanting or singing. So it's a lot of things, but, you know, it's really causing us to become sleep deprived. It happens every hour, sometimes until 4 in the morning, and I just feel horrible the next day. But, you know, there's like a few other things, like the car traffic on the street. We often have to pull over to let oncoming traffic by because there's so many cars on both sides. And sometimes they park right on the sidewalk because there's no space between the sidewalk and the street on my side. So it's causing a lot of congestion that way. But it's also causing people to walk in huge packs down the middle of the road, and that's scary as a driver because they're not always completely sober, and you know, you got people in the whole middle of the road, and so it's like parting the Red Sea to get your car down the street to the driveway. You know, we're also concerned because there's a lot more animals, and so I've got feces all over my yard from dogs of people who don't pick up after them.
Are you sure it's dogs?
No. But, I mean, for the most part, yeah. But no, that's another issue. I mean, there's people urinating on the streets at night at times. I mean, I don't see that all the time, but I know George has seen that too. And it's really gross, and it's a sanitation issue, but I think the main thing is that we don't feel comfortable in our own homes, and the way that people drive and do U-turns, and there's lights going in our windows because people are, you know, trying to get down non-conforming driveways while another car is parked waiting for that car to come out. Or I have a little video on my phone from last night where somebody just parked in one of those drives that goes back into other housing developments and turned on their flashers, and it was just flashing. So my whole house is flashing because they're just blocking that. But you know, just some quick related concerns are, you know, there's vandalism. I know George's son got his grill stolen on Church Street. They're at the olive oil store there, and somebody stole his grill and smoker, and then returned it, dumped it on his lawn with hot coals in it.
Borrowed it.
Yeah, and he had didn't he have like a rib fest the next day too? So he was using it in a competition, and it was stolen.
And I did very well. I managed to put it back together almost like new, and it didn't look like it was busted, and I'm surprised that I did. I mean, that's my mechanical ability. And just took it to the smoker, and, I mean, to the rib fest, and actually, 1 second.
So, I mean, a couple other concerns are, when I get up to look out the window, people are walking with open containers down the middle of the road. I've seen people carrying passed out people over their shoulder and just walking down the street with them. It's like no big deal. But I think there's got to be something done to stop this, you know, effect. It's like a broken window effect. So you see furniture that's just thrown in yards for weeks on end that somebody moved out, and it just creates an atmosphere of we can do whatever we want, and you know, that's what people do. And then I found, you know, eggs in my yard the other day that after the snow melted, somebody had egged my bushes. So it's very strange. But what I wanted to talk about is that, you know, there are a lot of us talking to the planning board and the zoning board, and we're against more building on Church Street. There's just nowhere to put more people, more cars, more animals. There's nowhere left. You just can't jam any more people into a space that can't accommodate them. But I'm requesting that a moratorium be placed on building so that the village planner can take her time, or whatever time that she needs with the building inspectors, to revise the code so it's nice and tight and it's not open to specious interpretation. And you know, it's my understanding that there is a developer that wants to squeeze more people into Church Street Commons. And right now, I don't believe there's any current applications before the planning board or the zoning board. It's my understanding that he's missed the deadline of March 25th to have anything discussed at the April 8th ZBA meeting. So it would seem that there's nothing current in the pipeline as far as building. So what I would love is if the village could stop further building until we can get things under control again, and you know, that people are doing things with a level of review, because these monstrosities that are going up and then later having things placed in between little strategically placed buildings that they did without going to the planning board, it's not acceptable to me, or, you know, my neighbors, and there are a lot of neighbors who are working on this and who, just don't, we just want a good quality of life. We want to be able to raise our kids and be able to sleep at night and, be able to
Right.
come down the street without hurting anyone.
Well, here's what I can do personally, and the board obviously can take more powerful action, but I can at least get a memo from our planner to the board about what's going on with Church Street. Obviously you've met her because she's new. It's a she, and I have a note to go down and inspect the street with our head of public works to make sure the street widths and all the things are laid out the way they should. I spent most of my 20 years in New Paltz living on Church Street on various sections, so I know every little inch of the street. The moratorium, I'd prefer to wait until we hear from Brenda about whether she recommends one, because they can be lengthy to implement before you even get to the moratoria, and there may be things we could do that would solve the problem without having to use that particular tool. So if that's acceptable to you, I'll make sure that you get a copy of the memo when the board does.
I would love to explore all possibilities and have an open line.
Yeah, let's have a conversation, and maybe if you can give your number to Katie, and I know George, of course, but you and George and whoever else, and myself and anyone on the board might be interested in just taking a walk and seeing what the physical layout looks like.
Okay.
So we can ID some things, and we'll bring Brenda, and we'll bring the head of public works, and because I was there, I lived right next to the right near Briarwood, the new house that got built in the corner.
Yeah.
I lived the one just to the north of that, while that was being built, and the one behind. So I was there when the jackhammering was going on through my back window. So I understand the.
Yeah, I wish they would have got it. If it went before the planning board, they could have built the whole thing at once.
We passed 2 local laws to prevent any of that from ever happening again, but we didn't pass them quickly enough to prevent the construction that happened.
But can it prevent further building within something that didn't go before the planning board?
Nothing can get built now without going to the planning board. What we did was, it used to be that by right, without going to the planning board, and correct me if I'm misstating this, Tom, you used to be able to build a single family or a 2-family home in that area. The law we passed said you can't do that by right anymore. You still have to go before the review board to even build a single family home, because of the fact that we're getting so built out that even a single family home has major impacts that it doesn't have if you build it, say, out by the mountains. You know what I mean? Away from everything else.
We're also looking at trying to get it down.
Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Yeah.
We're also looking to get it rezoned as an R2 district because, some people say, oh, well, Church Street's already built out, but there are side yards and, if properties change hands, I know specific places where if, somebody gets a hold of a piece of property, they could, high density develop it. And it's just not good for the community.
Well, let's take a walk and then bring it back to the board meeting shortly, if that's all right.
Sure. And
Okay.
I just want to make sure I just ask.
I'll call on George next, don't worry. Mr. Workman, please.
I'd just like to add a couple more comments to that.
So, I'm sorry, Katie, you got notes to set up that meeting?
Absolutely am.
Okay, thank you.
I'm a resident of Church Street.
You want to go? Yeah, right.
I
You live
live
in
on
Briarwood.
Church
You want to go on that thing too?
No, actually, I live in the other end, and trust me, I'm
Oh, right, yeah.
being
So-
silent is.
I'm sorry, George. Please.
I live on Church Street also, 43, right across from the buildings in question. I am also a New Paltz School District school bus driver, and I have to get up 5 o'clock in the morning. I get woken up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, all hours of the night. Disturbing my sleep, I wake up tired. It's not easy to drive a school bus. And I have your kids on the bus, and everybody else's. I don't like to be tired and try to drive a school bus and get in a problem, get in a situation where I get in an accident, something like that. This has gone on and it keeps getting worse with all of the building going on. I know we can't do nothing about the buildings that are there now, but I'd like to see it stop and not have any more buildings put in there. And if something done, I don't know if there can be a code put up about a curfew with these individuals going up and down the street, hooting and hollering because they are, I'll say the word, drunk. They drink too much. And you can tell just by the way they act going up and down the street. They throw things all over the place. In the morning you come out, there's food, glass bottles, cans, plastic bottles, and you name it, on the street. And it's just ridiculous. And I've gotten to the point where I'm mad as H, and I ain't gonna take it anymore. That's the situation. And my main concern is getting woken up those hours in the morning or the night, and then have to go and drive a school bus. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's
Now,
hard.
I don't know what our police department is, what their role is in curbing all of this stuff, but I haven't seen too many of them come down our street and do anything about it. I've called several times about the parties that go on in these houses, not only those houses, but other ones too, where they live up the street further, whatever, and it either takes a long time for them to come, but they don't show up. And I get aggravated with that. That they don't, I feel they don't come and do their job. Now, for what reason, I don't know. But that's my feeling on the whole situation. I don't like it.
Well, thank you, George.
And all my neighbors are the same way. I wish they were here.
And you'll be able to come with us when we take the walk, and
Depending on the time of day.
we'll make sure that you can make it. If you'll leave your name and
later afternoon.
your number with the clerk, we'll make sure to do it at a time you can be there.
Okay. I
So-
will, gladly.
Thank you, George. Appreciate it. Ellen, you have something in the back.
Yeah, I just want to add something or respond to something that George said. It's when you call the police.
Ellen, will you stand up also?
When you call the police, you are entitled to ask for a case number. They will give you a case number. Whether you do anything with that case number except write it down, the important thing is you've got it. And it's the only way that the community, and there is, as you probably know from Beth, real activity in trying, and collaboration from the police, in trying to change some of this stuff. And the only way that we can demonstrate that we have this problem is by saying, here's the case number. So please, if you're calling the police for any reason, get the case number, and there will be an opportunity for you to put it to good use.
Thank you, Ellen. Any other public comment? Yes. Valerie, good to see you.
Thank you. How are you doing?
Good.
I actually came to speak somewhat about, I came to speak about the landlord law. I haven't read it yet, so I can't speak to the details of it. But what I wanted to talk about was the fact that their conversation absolutely supports what I came to say. That we've been, I've spent years talking to numerous administrations about how they're going to fix the problems with the bad landlords, the problems with their buildings, and making sure that the tenant rights are all taken care of. And there are really good landlords in New Paltz who are already doing those things. I've talked to many of them sitting on your side of the table while they sat there. And then there are others who are not as capable. But what we seem to neglect speaking about and finding ways to require is tenant responsibility, is students' responsibility, or I shouldn't say students or tenants specifically, but behavior in the streets regardless of who is causing it. That is so unacceptable. I don't even have words for it. And we should be looking for ways to, I don't even know if the police are the only solution. We tried relation committees, we've tried, it's not that that there haven't been solutions attempted for this problem. I mean, I'm known as the meanest landlord in New Paltz. People write lies.
Me.
Well, we share that. My street doesn't have those kinds of problems to your magnitude anymore. But when they did, it was a nightmare I was unable to live with. And it never was a tenth of what you're talking about, not 1%. And it was horrible. And that can't be controlled by putting more rules on landlords about gutters and where they're going to put somebody when a sewer pipe breaks. And you really need to find a way to set standards for behavior that's so out of control that is destroying the livability of entire neighborhoods. And I don't know, or even at the moment, able to give you a recommendation of what that solution might be, but I think it should be a focus. I do.
I mean, besides police enforcement, I'd
Pardon
imagine.
me?
Besides more police enforcement, I'd imagine.
Well, I think that. Well,
Do you think that
solved
that would not solve it?
We solved our problem with the police and with the landlord. We complained to the landlord, who was problematic so frequently, and in the middle of the night that he finally sold the house rather than deal with me anymore. And the new landlords are pretty responsible. Their tenants, he screens his tenants. We don't, they come, they have occasional problems there. I call the police, they come, it doesn't happen again for a while. And I don't have a problem with the house anymore to the extent that we used to. My lease, I mean, if I had to call the police on my tenants for behavior like that, they're fined for it, and they know that it'll come out of their security. And that's why we have such a disreputable reputation as nasty landlords, but I'm proud of that reputation.
It's because you don't allow candles in your leases.
I'm proud of
But
that
thank you,
reputation.
Valerie.
My
I'm
neighbors
sorry.
are happy for it as well, and I would love to see their neighborhood taken out from under siege. I mean, it's so unacceptable. I can't even find the right word for it, and you have my sympathies.
Thank you so much,
If we could
Valerie.
find a focus like that, I would enjoy working on a project like that.
All right. Well, consider yourself volunteering.
I just want to say that I think that, accountability on all parts, on the part of the people living there, the part of the landlord to screen tenants and say you're out if you're doing these things, but, we haven't found that in our neighborhood, that people get kicked out when they break the law or have the police called. And I mean, I think that's what needs to happen, is if you can't follow the law, then, you have to find that you shouldn't be able to stay there.
Right.
I don't know if that's a viable option, but.
Who else? I'm so, Sally.
I just wanted to talk to Val a second and to Beth. There are.
Valerie? Sally
There are-
has a comment for you.
There are groups that are working, the Downtown Concerns Group that is working on these very issues. Ellen is on it, Amy is on it, I'm on it, and we're working on that. I think yesterday's event at the college where we had a reaffirmation of the tenant or the tavern owners understanding with the village and the town and the police department and the college is again an attempt at collaboration of people of differing views, differing interests coming together and trying to solve problems together. And I urge all of you who are concerned about this, you don't have to have the same point of view. That's what we don't want. We want various and diverse points of view coming together to give instances where we can collaboratively solve problems. And so I urge you to get involved with it. And Ellen is.
I will take emails from anybody who wants to.
Beautiful.
Ellen, here's the pen.
Beautiful. All right.
Yeah,
Please.
I have to leave very quickly, but I heard, I know it's a touchy issue, that you are suing the village
Yes.
for a pay decrease.
Yes.
I just wanted to make fun of and also highlight the ridiculous nature of that and say that I'm very disappointed and I'm not proud at all about that fact.
Well, I'm sorry for that.
As you sit and munch your free complimentary village purchase donuts.
Actually, they're not. They're not.
All right, well, whoever bought them, I just want to say, Mr. Mayor, shame. You should not be suing your own village. That is an outrage.
Well,
With that, everyone have a great night. I love you all.
good night. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Max. Max, your coat.
Comment about the noise.
Wait, hold on. I want to make sure.
I know, yeah, okay.
Before, I want someone, if there's someone who hasn't spoken, I want to hear them before we start giving people a second chance. Jonathan, you haven't spoken yet?
Yeah, I'll just make one mention about the Church Street issue. We live on the corner of Academy and North Chestnut. And I have to tell you, I think it's every other night. It's really rough. And, but we do call the police when it gets really, really bad at 2 in the morning, at 3 in the morning, and something's going on. And they do come down, they do try to, rectify the problem. I would definitely, if you can, you know the new police commission is the town board. If you can, go to a police commission meeting and express yourself to the commission and the chief. And I think you'll get a little more maybe enforcement action if you do that. I think, you know, allow them to understand, you know, your problems a little bit deeper. So, you know, maybe that'll help. It should help. We should have enforcement. And of course, the major problem is that in this village, we don't believe in self-responsibility. The board is proposing a new landlord legislation law, which holds students and tenants absolutely non-responsible for whatever actions they do. And interestingly enough, just to bring, you know, to say a little bit more about that, I've been working with my attorney on a new lease agreement, anticipating the new law with these $750 penalties and these outrageous.
Are you saying you're a landlord?
I own 3 houses. I'm a landlord, you know. Not a big landlord, but I'm a landlord. So anyway, we made up an addendum to the leases, to the lease agreements, and I've been passing that to my tenants.
John, can you give me 1 second? Ellen and Valerie, could you please have it,
So sorry.
bring it outside so that everyone can hear?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, John, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So I've approached my tenants and some other tenants who live here, students and non-students alone, and boy, are they frightened. They are so scared. They realize that if they make a hole in the screen after it was inspected, they're going to be fined, because the fine's going to go directly to them, $750 for every day that they don't fix their screen. It's all these things. They're petrified. People now want to move out of the village because of this new impending law. It's scaring everybody because everybody realizes that everybody else, well, not only the landlords, but the tenants are going to be involved in these egregious penalties. So I just wanted to make mention that you're really doing a great job in scaring and befuddling all tenants because they realize you're being tough, it's going to be just as tough on them. The other thing I did want to mention your salary increase. And I just want to mention, you know, I ran for mayor twice, and it was a great experience. I encourage anybody to really go for that experience. It's really
I'm glad you think so.
It's really much. But I have to tell you, and you know, Jason, we had several debates. I think we must have 12 debates. It was amazing.
Those are fun.
They are fun. They are fun. And I had a good time with you when we did that. That's the truth. But the truth of the matter is, we were asked by several moderators if we each were going to be elected mayor, whether we were going to ask for a higher salary. And I was asked, my thing was, I was going to not, even though I need the money, I'm not made of money, but I decided that maybe the mayor should be non-salary. It should be a position that should be a volunteer position. And I just felt that it should be a lesson that we should teach from the top down, that, you know, to encourage volunteerism. They asked Jason, he said he was not going to be asking for an increase in salary. And he was asked several times. And he said he wasn't going to be asked for an increase in salary. And then I believe the board decided that potentially we could use a full-time position, mayor position, and they gave him a chance. They raised the salary to a full-time mayoral position salary. And unfortunately, from what I understand from the board, he didn't fulfill that requirement of being here full-time. I'm not going to argue because maybe he was, but I just don't really believe what the board tells me. So they decided, in their infinite wisdom, to reduce him back to the original salary that he started at, that he originally said that he'd be fine with. At the same time, it also bothers me that any individual that would like to take the mayor's position, but they work, they have a job, they cannot be the mayor. Why? Because if it's a full-time position, how you gonna beat the mayor? It's a full-time position, but you already have a job. You can't. So I would say that 95% of the working people in this village, unless you decide you want to be a full-time mayor and that's the only job you want to have, but 95% of individuals that would like to be the mayor cannot do it because they haven't got a full-time job. Everybody, I really don't know anybody that, supports themselves, doesn't have a full-time position. Meanwhile, if it's a part-time mayor, you have the opportunity to go work your other job, which Jason has that opportunity to go work, whatever job he wants to do to make up the salary difference that he might require to live. So I just want to let you know that I support what the board did in reducing the salary commensurate to a part-time position. I'd like to see it remain that way, and I think it would be a great message to all of those who live in the village who are paying taxes through their rents, to realize that the board is aware and acknowledge that we're having very, very tough times. In fact, the tough times started in 08, 07, when the economy really fell off the cliff. I think it's even worse now. You see, we're coming out of it. Businesses on Main Street are complaining left and right. All
John, pull it together at the end here.
Okay, that's all. And I just wanted all to say, I wish you a really good birthday.
You too.
Healthy and a good.
Happy birthday, John.
Okay, so thank you.
And
Thank you
Alan,
very
may
much.
I have my pen back, please?
All right. Is there anyone? I know Ira and Miriam want to say something else. Is there anyone who hasn't had a chance to speak yet? Or hasn't spoken? No, then if you wouldn't mind, very briefly, Ira, then Miriam.
Yeah, very quickly, the lady was talking about taking the case numbers down.
Alan,
Okay.
right there.
I don't remember whether Ariana was on the commission or the liaison to the commission, but on behalf of the village, she came to the commission or the board or did it and asked for a list from the police department of all noise complaints and where they were for the year. So that information is available if you want to ask for it. And I said, rather than people having to run around making little notes and compiling it, you can make that request. We did answer that request, and we gave Ariana the list for a year of where every noise complaint
We
was.
have been told that no such list is available.
You have to FOIL
I'll
for
argue with you.
individual, you have to FOIL for individual.
Software issue.
Yeah, I know it is. I got it.
Okay, folks.
I'm fairly certain I was on the commission at the time, and that,
I think
that may
that's
have been
why I
part
wanted
of
to,
why.
that's why I wanted
I
to
was
bring
able
it
to
out,
access
because we
that,
got it. So
but-
it's available.
Thank you,
And I
Ira.
would hope
Thank
that
you.
would make it available to the downtown business community.
Not me.
Well, yeah, it would be the
Miriam,
current police
please.
commission. That's
Just to speak briefly to what Ira brought up about the increase in power, cost of power coming in May 1st, that catastrophe. I didn't say it in the whole meeting, I'm new to the issues, but there was a major meeting up at County Office Building Monday night, and there were a lot of people around here who know a lot about that increase. But I thought they said, and I really don't know these issues that clearly, that I thought they said that New Paltz, and they didn't specify whether it was town or village or both, had sought and gained intervener status in that rate increase. So I guess this is a question.
No idea.
Has the village explored this at all?
I don't know.
Do you have
I don't know what you're
intervener
talking
status?
about. So no.
Oh, okay. There's a catastrophic rate increase.
No. You don't have to go.
We know.
You don't have to go in the background. We know that.
That
But-
you know, but no, and also actually, Fortis and Central Hudson and some of whatever, Rockland are also seeking intervener status. It's like nobody's for this except for the feds. So, which is a really strange irony, but,
If you could get us information on that, rather than have us try to understand what you're saying now, that'd be great.
Right.
And last public comment, Valerie?
This will be really quick. I just wanted to make it clear that the woman who's sitting over here before, she said something about accountability. I don't want to claim that just because we have strict rules is the only reason why our house is successful. There are close to 100 tenants, and 99% of them are young, responsible, accountable adults. It is possible for people to behave properly without the landlord being, crazy on them as well. I would like to find a way makes it the village can, I don't know if it's more laws or tightening up what the police actions are possible without crossing the Constitution, of course, or just find ways to have our expectations met in a more acceptable manner. But accountability, like you said, that really is the bottom line, is accountability for landlords and tenants and homeowners.
For everybody.
and
For everybody.
Everybody.
And it should, when I was 18, I was an adult, you know, and we should expect the same from everybody else who's allowed to vote, you know.
Thank you very much.
That's all.
Well said. So we have a couple people here. No, you can leave if you
I
want to
gotta
go.
go. Everybody's thinking it. I just want to say happy birthday.
Thank you. All right, so we've got some people here for some specific agenda items. I'm just going to burn through them as quickly as I can in my uninfinite wisdom. Mr. Kerr, Mr. Starr, would you want to join us at the table? And then we've got Suni, we've got Stephen. Is Stephen here?
Stefan.
I'm sorry, Stefan. So give us just a few minutes, and then we have Nami. I know we have. We've got. I had to pick one.
Stefan's been put off for.
Okay, well, do you want to send them back and have him come
No,
forward?
I'm just saying.
Okay, well then let's go forward. So Don and Johnny have both volunteered to volunteer with our new Environmental Policy Commission. There are several others who have stepped forward who couldn't be here tonight. So I intend to advise the board to appoint Mr. Kirk chair and Mr. John Starr a commissioner. But Don, you want to give us the? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. John Starr and Don Kerr, Tom Rocco, Rebecca, Ariana, of course. And also those, there was Jesse and Abigail Chance were interested. They've had to withdraw, I believe.
That's correct. That's
Rich
correct.
Casano is interested. He couldn't be here tonight. And
Yes.
Kamiko Link is interested, who couldn't be here tonight. So we've got a good team, a base team going, but
Rachel Lagadka is interested.
Oh,
as
she
well.
is
I
as
know.
well.
I gave Don her name and Rosalind Cherry, but I didn't speak. with Rosalind.
okay, great. Well, so
Yeah.
and we have some other people coming.
Yeah, I reached out to 8 people just in the past 2-3 days, so we should.
So
we
maybe
should
just
get
Don, you want to give us a 30-second what you have in mind, where we're at
Well,
right now?
I think the idea is to form a commission of lay people. You know, the police commission is effective without it being law enforcement members who comprise it. Same thing with the Board of Education. They're not necessarily educators. So my intent would be to let the group form and let the group decide for itself what their priorities are. I would like at some point to get an idea when you all passed this law, the Creators Commission, what you had in mind, what the original intent of the founders was, so we can have an idea of what your vision was. I did Google top 10 municipal environmental issues, and that seemed like a good place to start. So I'll just read that off, and that would probably be the starting point for the first meeting. It'd be water, very timely, transportation, solid waste, as in municipal trash pickup, public health, open space, land use, funding, enforcement, energy, air, and legislative. So that's what Google tells us are the top municipal environmental issues, and I would think we'd like to form the commission and get some guidance from you in terms of what you expect of the commission, and then move forward.
The law that was passed, that the mayor proposed, is pretty specific as to duties and responsibilities of the commission, and there are
5 commissioners, and each commissioner works with 2 assistants. Yes.
And so, I would think what you might want to do, Don, is choose a topic that you'd like to explore. I know what your professional expertise is, and so I'm in favor of that one.
Which is water.
Water. But I mean, it would seem to me if there were another topic that you thought was more pressing than water at the moment, that should be pursued. But I myself would be, and given your expertise, would hope that it would be water.
Okay, thank you.
The objective, again, is fairly specific. So I would suggest, Don, rather than that the proposed commissioners figure out what they want to do, there is an objective of this proposed law that there be proposed legislation, and that each of the commissioners come forth with a
Proposed
particular
projects. It
project.
could be something other than a local law. It could be a public works project.
Could be a project.
Legislation is great too, though.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, of course.
So it's rather more particular than generic. So we're looking for something that's actionable from this commission rather than brainstorming or in the broad sense of additional planning. We have a planner, we have planning going on, but we need actionable recommendations.
You want a commission to actually do something? You know, radical. What a radical notion in New Paltz.
Well said.
Yes.
Well, you know, because this is really the interview of John and Don for this commission. So maybe we could hear just a few seconds from each of you about what it is, what your particular interest might be in volunteering for this.
You want to go first?
Yeah, my background is in education. I'm an English teacher. I teach in Pine Plains, New York. So my interest really in being in the commission is to just serve my community. I don't have a particular background in environmental issues. I've lived here for 17 years, so I have a pretty good feel of what various issues are in town. And I'm certainly willing to think and talk and work
So
on
you
issues.
don't have a topic that you want to research?
I do not at this point. You mentioned water, and obviously that's
Well,
a
only because I
pressing
know
issue.
Don and I know his expertise.
Right, and that would certainly be a pressing issue, I think, now more than ever, so that would probably be a good place to start. I agree with that.
And I think based on the topics being discussed at this table, I would say energy and solid waste would also be topics that are of interest in, you know, locally. There are things you're talking about, and they're very relevant. My background is in water. Professionally, I'm an executive recruiter for water engineers and scientists. I find engineers and scientists in the water business for companies that provide systems that treat water and wastewater. My hobby, my weekend project, invented and developed and commercialized a drinking water system designed for remote communities in the developing world. It uses no electricity or fuel, and we have recently redone our numbers and found that it treats enough water for 265 people per unit for less than a penny per day for 3 years. And that's something I'm doing in my spare time. I did speak to this board with regard to the issue of municipal water, and made the case that if there is not money from the state to develop additional water sources, that we could, for a reasonable amount of, or comparatively reasonable amount of time, money, treat Wallkill River yucky water and make it potable, and that's very viable. It's being done in other places. That's it. That's.
Well, any other questions for our potential commissioners here?
Are you moving to?
I would move to appoint both of them unless they have questions for us first.
Well, what I would like is that all people, as they're nominated or as they're appointed, get copies of the law that form the committee. So we
Yes.
can.
I think that's a great idea,
I don't see them there.
I've explained it to him ad nauseum, but
Yes,
I'll give
yes,
him a
yes.
hard copy.
Well, I'll second
All
for
right.
sure.
Get a copy of the law, read it, and see if you still are in.
I'm down.
Tell you what, I'm going to move to appoint Don Kerr and John Starr to
Quick,
the
before you
Environmental
read the law.
Conservation.
You're gonna get a choice on this.
I know, he doesn't.
Did they get to say yes or no before I second this?
Ariana already seconded.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Welcome
Yeah, thanks for
aboard.
volunteering.
Thank you.
Mr. Starr, could you give our office a call?
Thanks, Don. Thanks for sharing, too. It's not a small job.
Don, we can send you a copy.
I know, Shelley, I know.
Sure.
I know.
Thanks,
Happy
Johnny.
birthday and a commissioner's board.
Thank you very much.
Arian, would you mind if Shelley and Richard go first?
Well, hold on. Stefan has been put off several times.
Yeah.
He's waited
And
3 months.
Here's the thing. We've got 3 groups of people. Wait, hold on.
It'll be 5 minutes.
Wait, hold on. Everybody hold on. We've got 3 competing interests here. 2 SUNY reps are here. We've got Stefan. And we've got 2 reps from National Alliance of Mental Illness, all waiting for an agenda item. So I'm guessing Stefan, since he's been on the agenda twice now, goes next, and then we flip a coin to see who goes home first.
Well, I'd say that is by then chronological order and they're next.
Well, I'm chairing the meeting, so would you mind waiting for a presentation? Thank you very much. Stefan, please join us.
And they actually sat through 4 hours.
Yeah, come on over here. Don't worry, we'll get you home soon. We'll get you home soon. They had to sit through 4 hours of another meeting we were at.
I'm a senior at New Paltz and I study political science. Last semester I interned with Ms. Bosco. And my final project with her was researching permeable parking lots, which we have one of in New Paltz on Route 32, built last year I believe. And I just wanted to talk about permeable parking lots and set up sort of a proposal for more in town. I don't really know what the dynamic is between the village or actually what districts you guys deal with versus the town, but...
Don't bother with it.
Okay.
Let us figure that out. You just tell us what we got to do with our parking
We
lots.
have, by the way, we have your report. Everybody got it.
Okay, yeah, everyone has it.
I actually...
Expecting you.
Okay. There's actually a few typos in there that I corrected, so don't mind those. I was first introduced to the idea when I was spending a summer in Iowa. I was at the University of Northern Iowa in Waterloo, and it's a pretty rundown place, and they're going through a lot of there's a lot of movement to sort of bring the community back, and they're introducing a lot of bicycle trails and trying to make it a more environmentally friendly town. And one of the things that they did was redevelop their parking lots. Iowa has been plagued with floods for a very long time. Essentially, one gigantic floodplain is what the state of Iowa is. And it sort of, I found it to be a really interesting idea. I thought of the 2011 Hurricane Irene incident where all of western New Paltz was under 5 feet of water. I was currently working at the Wallkill Bee Farm, so lots of paychecks there. And while it is a more expensive version of infrastructure, there's a lot of advantages. It reduces runoff. I'm not sure how familiar everyone is, so I don't want to be like repeating things that everyone is.
Assume that we have general working knowledge of the concept.
Okay. Well, just to go over the benefits really quickly, it reduces runoff. It has less of an impact on the environment. It promotes groundwater recharge. And I don't know, I'm not a chemist. I don't have an in-depth understanding of it, but apparently microorganisms develop in the subgrade layer of the parking lot that filter the contaminants that enter, whether they're pet wastes or car oils or things like that. And I could go into the various details of like different types of parking lots, but
what's the dollar comparison? A square foot of normal pavement versus a square foot of permeable.
It
How
could
much
be
more
anything.
expensive is it?
I did some research on this. It could be anything from 50% more to almost twice as much.
And what
So it
about
really
the life
depends what you're
cycle of
looking
it,
at.
though? Does it last longer, the permeable?
It lasts longer. It doesn't deal with the freeze thaw, like heaving
That's the
issues.
cracking, yeah. That's what I was
Right. So
wondering,
that's
yeah.
one of the enormous benefits of permeable.
So it
parking
costs
lots.
more per square foot, but it'll last longer. So that
Right,
it costs
and it's also part of my research looked into how it deals with cold climate, and being that New Paltz is on a pretty large slope, I looked into studies from the University of New Hampshire and Rhode Island and Cornell University, and apparently it's okay in cold climates and on slopes, up to 20% grades, I believe. All of that information.
That's what you said right here. That's what I just saw.
Yeah.
Sally, you have a question?
I do have one question, because
Okay.
I think this is a wonderful idea, and I think we should support it. But I have heard negative things about it in terms of snow plowing.
That was the one issue I wasn't sure if I was going to bring up.
Always leave it to me.
How are you training these?
There's complications with snow plowing, and there's also issues with salting and using sand during the winter time.
It'll fill the interstitial.
Right.
spaces.
One of the maintenance tasks that comes along with this is, I believe, like monthly vacuuming of the parking lots.
I was just gonna make a joke about that, but seriously, you vacuum?
Literally vacuuming. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I don't actually know how they deal with melting snow. I couldn't find anything on that, so that's something that maybe if there was more support for this legislation, for developing or redeveloping parking lots or sidewalks or things with permeable surfaces. Something to look into, but.
Well, we have very good connections in New Hampshire, and we can find out what the experience in the state is, or if there are particular institutions that are using the brick-like permeable surfaces or crushed stone permeable surfaces. We might be
The
able to
research
find
that
out
I
what their experience is.
The research that I found said that there's actually very little difference between the three, porous concrete, asphalt, and the brick layout.
Right.
So I'm not too sure, but that's definitely
But it is
good
the
first step.
snow removal that I'd like to know a little
Right.
more about. And I
Yeah,
did
I'm
know
sorry,
about
I'm
the
slacking.
salt, so you have to not be able to salt streets that are near it.
Right.
So I have one question. Are you interested in joining our Environmental Policy Commission?
I don't know what that entails, but
we
I'm
just
definitely
interviewed
interested.
2 people for it, and you've got a whole policy research
Yeah.
paper. If you're curious, that was a senior. Are you leaving us?
I am.
Oh, then never mind. At least you're leaving us with a nice research paper for us to then take and run with, though.
Flying off
This
the
is
top
part of my internship program,
I know, it's great.
FYI.
Yeah.
When I run internships, they get college credit, and then they come and do presentations to the board about legislation that we can propose, which is cool for us and looks great on your resume. Shameless plug. I don't get paid extra for that.
They would know the answer to the
They should.
snow, I think.
We actually have a few businesses around town that install parking lots like this. I was considering contacting them before I came, but I didn't get around to that. But I believe there's someone like down 32 North that installs things like this. So, yeah, quick Google search, they come up.
Yeah.
I think if we can resolve the snow and salt, this is really worthwhile.
The snow, I would imagine, would just
Right.
melt through eventually.
Well, right. So a lot of it would
eventually,
melt through, but
that's a long time.
Yeah, but you know what? 8 months of the year, having something beneficial is probably worth.
I totally agree.
The,
But I do
or
think
8 months of
snow
snow
is
that we
an
get.
issue, especially if we want to reconstruct a municipal lot.
Right.
With this method.
Right.
I think we need the answer to the snow removal.
And I guess the final connection I wanted to make was just, I don't know what involvement or where Park Point even is anymore. I know that there was an environmental impact statement made that I couldn't find online. It looks like it might have been pulled, or there's an error of some sort. But if there's any interest in installing these sort of surfaces for parking lots in Park Point, I think that would be pretty advantageous for the community.
Not our jurisdiction.
Okay, well, just an idea.
Thank God.
Planned for everyone.
I know someone on the town planning board. I can pass this information along.
Okay.
Yeah, we could definitely, as an interested agency, make recommendations.
Putting this on the agenda for further discussion?
Yeah, I think that we
So
should.
you're gonna get more information for us? Who's gonna do
I
the
could
work?
also continue with the research. if
Okay,
that's-
great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That would be good.
If you could answer
Okay.
those questions, because we'd love to use it as a material, just as a default material, if we can.
Sure.
So the big questions are about snow removal.
No. And I think it would be reasonable for us to ascertain whether in a new development where a parking lot is being installed, even if it's not municipal, whether we can require it to use.
Well, that's I believe that's what the end of this, the sample ordinances are exactly that, saying that new construction would include.
We'd have to change.
Right. I
We can
didn't
work
know
that-
there
we
was
can
a
work
little
this out
something
some
in
other
there.
time.
The attorney would have to obviously.
A very good job, Stephanie.
Yes,
I
thank
was
you.
impressed.
Yes.
Very well done. Thank you.
Where in Iowa was it that you?
I was in Waterloo. It's sort of central northwest.
Okay.
It's the University of Northern Iowa. I could also look at what they did exactly, but
Okay.
Yeah.
different climate. So
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks so much
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for dealing with the scheduling stuff
Yeah. I have one bit of business I forgot earlier before we get to the next group. I would like the board's consent for my appointment of Don Kerr as chair of the Environmental Policy Commission.
Second.
All in
Don't
favor?
you,
Uh-huh.
don't you want the other commissioners first?
No, we, trust me, you've got the other commissioners, we need someone to steer it, and Don's
Yeah,
volunteered.
but let's be fair to him and let him read the law first and then.
Don, would you like to read the law first, or are you willing to be appointed chair first?
I think you've explained it to me well enough, I just wanted to see the language.
Okay, are you comfortable being appointed chair tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, all right, so, hold on. We've
Are we
got
really
SUNY
flipping
and we've got the
a coin?
National Alliance on Mental Illness. Tina, heads or tails? Whatever. It was tails, sorry. SUNY goes first.
Well, I'm glad you waited and got to see what a fellow poli-sci major is doing these days. He graduated the year I did with the poli-sci major from SUNY. So.
Wait for the mayor.
We can start with pleasantries first.
Well, pleasantries, it's very nice to meet you all. I know we didn't get a chance, Rebecca. My name is Rich Winters, and I'm the Community and Government Relations Associate in the President's Office.
Oh, very
Working
nice.
alongside Shelley and supporting the President in initiatives in our work at the college.
Very good.
It's good to meet you all.
And welcome to New Paltz. Nice to meet you at last.
Welcome back to New Paltz.
Boy, you ready for Christmas, right?
Well, I've been at the college for the last several years, but I just transferred over into the President's office. That's right. That's right. Well, thank you very much.
Well, that was very pleasant.
Wait, we're missing.
We're missing.
We are now mixing too.
One person. But we'll be back momentarily.
We discussed the material that you sent to us, and that's why we thought it would be nice to invite you to come and talk to us about the answers to the questions that you presented.
Yeah, and we'll certainly touch base on those.
And that might get you, they're going to review our questions and tell us the answers.
And tell us the answer's good.
Whether we like the answers is something else.
You're just really away. There we go. Thank you.
So it's really been Rich's project, so he's gonna.
Sorry.
He's gonna lead the
Lead the talk here. So the purpose of our presence here tonight is, again, to speak with you all. I'm going to give a very brief overrun of the program with respect to our draft campus plan, and then address questions that you may have as the board. Part of the program with Startup New York requires that campuses such as New Paltz share draft copies of their campus plans with specific stakeholders. And among those specific stakeholders is your local municipalities, and in this case, your village board, which is why you received the plan from the president in draft form.
Which I have, and I'll put on the table, that's all right for people to look at.
As far as the conversations is concerned, it's important to note we're not going to take notes in any questions that you have or any conversation here, because the program does require that if you choose to make any type of feedback to us, it's in written form. So we know that that written form might change by the time you send us the comments by 2. A couple things to be aware of with respect to the plan. The campus itself, the president has laid out 3 really key criteria to be aware of in how we would see ourselves engaging with prospective businesses. The first is that there has to be a clear academic link, clear academic connection between a prospective business and the college. Anything short of that connection isn't going to meet part of our test in establishing potential consideration under the program. The second is that we have opportunities for our students by way, let's say, of course, of internships, and for our faculty by research opportunities. We want to make sure we have a clear connection there. And then the third is that we'd like to create a framework for lasting relationships. In that sense, we want our qualified graduates to stay local. We want our qualified graduates to partner with specific companies and, of course, get jobs. And that's part of the economic development considerations under the program. In terms of things to be aware of and a couple key points in the plan, with the campus itself, there is on-campus space with SUNY colleges, and there is off-campus considerations. Our campus, through our facilities master plan, indicates that we've got a 300,000-foot academic space deficit. And as you saw within the plan itself, as a result, by and large, much of the prospective participation here will deal with local municipalities. And what does that exactly mean? One of the concerns that we're certainly sensitive to, that you're certainly sensitive to as board members, is in fact dealing with the property tax issue.
Mm-hmm.
As you'll see in the plan, and what we try to be as clear as possible about, is that we envision a prospective business that might come in, show interest in Startup New York. That business, it's on that company to go out and find prospective real estate property. The college itself draws a clear line and does not want to get into the real estate business, so to speak. So for example, if a business works with a commercial real estate agent, and I'm talking 2 months or 2 years from now, hypothetically speaking, and that real estate agent identifies a piece of property that fits that prospective business's needs, they can enter into a real estate relationship. The property tax line would remain in that relationship, and we put that in our plan as well, where the prospective company is going to pay rent, and the landlord can choose to use that rental income to cover the property tax line. So when you think about Startup New York and you do see marketing and advertisements with respect to the different tax lines that are waived, for lack of a better word, it is not necessarily an all or nothing proposition as we are told today, and as it is crafted in the language of the legislation. Now, there's a series of questions that you outlined here, and I'm just going to cover briefly some responses to them. With respect to zoning and planning reviews, any potential business partners that are looking at off-campus property, off-campus locations, we suspect or expect that they will be subject to any type of local environmental zoning laws, SECRA as well, to get to your second question, that any business would. The college is not going to have any type of involvement with respect to any waivers of local laws. We respect those laws remain in place. Any company that would be required to engage in SECRA would do so regardless of their possible affiliation with Startup New York. When we're talking about
including the college-owned parcels?
When we're talking about, and I'll get to
off
that.
campus.
Yes, off campus. When we're talking about agency status, as it stands today, and this gets further down in your letter, but we do have a small piece of property in our plan, 82 South Manheim, that is what I would call college-owned property for the purposes of this discussion. On-campus property, SUNY acts as lead agency. Absent on-campus property, so off-campus property, again, the similar type of procedure that any prospective business would engage with your local municipality is what would happen in terms of the SECRA process.
So that 82 South Manheim, for instance, that is campus-owned property, but is that on-campus property? Or is that the same thing?
It is. Yes.
Yeah.
Are you talking about C1?
C1.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because I was,
Yes.
that parcel is part of the campus? Is that what you were saying?
That's what I was just asking.
Okay.
It is
It's not just a
Yeah.
parcel owned by the campus, that's what you just asked, right?
This is exactly.
Okay, I just want to be sure I heard the answer right.
Yes, it is.
That's what my first question was about too. So-
Yes, we would call it on-campus property in
Okay.
this sense.
Okay.
Yes.
Because you bought it.
Yes, yes.
So
And
is
it's 62.
82?
Yeah,
82.
82 South.
But you bought one club.
82.
So I have a question just in terms of campus owned. So say it's something that is not adjacent to campus, but it is purchased by, I mean, you said you're not into getting into the real estate business, but say that the campus did purchase a piece of property that was on Main Street, for instance. So it's not adjacent to the campus, and it would that be considered campus owned or on campus? Are those two things interchangeable, or would this property stay on the tax roll somehow? This is what I'm wondering.
Well, I think if you're speaking hypothetically, when a state-owned agency if they make a decision to purchase a piece of property, then that becomes part of the state, if we're speaking in hypotheticals.
Okay.
So I would say that in terms of
It's not technically
acquisitions-
on campus.
So
But-
anything you buy comes off the tax rolls, and we have no local land use authority.
Yes.
Right, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
correct.
So, and is there anything that you would, I want to make sure, are there any properties that you would be involved in that don't meet that criteria? Or is everything you're talking about coming off the tax rolls?
No, and again, just.
Because I'm confused about the program itself at this point.
Just-
I've heard so many conflicting
There's some, absolutely.
information.
So when a prospective business engages with a college
Right.
like New Paltz, there will be a process for them to apply to us under consideration. We're not at that point yet because we're still in the campus plan process.
Okay. And they apply to you, to the
They
college.
apply to
Okay.
us as the sponsoring institution.
okay.
Correct. But during this engagement process, and there are a lot of different players that are involved, the campus is not going to be from the position where, and I've had very general business inquiries to date saying, do you know of a property that has X thousands of gallons of sewer, water, wastewater? We don't have a particular expertise in real estate in that respect.
Sure.
So that business is going to engage with, for example, a commercial real estate agent to identify a property. Let's say they identify that property. I have X, 12 Main Street, again making it up. I want that to be my property. So the business and the property owner will enter into a real estate relationship. Nobody in this instance is advocating for property tax to be removed from the rolls. The business owner is going to create a revenue stream where the rent, the lease, the monthly lease cost would cover the cost of the property tax obligation for that particular building. So that's what happens when you're referring to off-campus property. When you're referring to on-campus property, that's where you would have a full waiver, so to speak, and I use that as a colloquial term, where no taxes would apply, property taxes included, and again, that property is already off the rolls in that instance.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Just to cover and finish your letter here, as far as if a potential partner in the future were to purchase a property in the Village of New Paltz, that question, it's the intention of the program, from everything we've been told, everything we've received, everything we've reviewed, again, to not in fact have any properties that are presently on the tax rolls come off the tax rolls. And one thing in general terms that I've read and heard is certainly there are more municipalities throughout the state that have equal sensitivity in this sense. So as far as, again, not speaking for New York State by any means, but understanding that they have heard similar types of concerns. Building off of that, if a company purchased a property and then made significant improvements, that question there, similar to any company that comes into a municipality, and again, we're referring to off-campus property, a potential business owner could choose to approach the municipality to talk about assessed value and what possible accommodations financially could be made. That's a decision that is left in the hands of the respective municipality. We're not advocating, and it's not in our plan, our draft document, to make any particular changes there. That would be at the discretion of the specific municipality, let's say in this case the village.
Can we get a little specific on that? You're saying that the college did not intervene and lobby for an IDA or a business that you feel would connect very nicely with a program.
What I'm saying is that with respect to our more than not academic connections to this program, that's not something that is within our purview to take on at this time. It would be something where if a business wants to lobby an IDA, if that's a decision that they want to make, they can certainly choose to do so. But our prime focus is the academic connections here with the institutions.
Now, want a yes or a no, please be specific. If a company came, 3D company, that's a real possibility.
Sure.
Finds property, develops, and sees the potential employment of 100 people out there, and then turns around and wishes to apply for an IDA or property tax exemption or whatever, and I see this program from the government, New York State point of view, laying this way,
Sure.
the college would say, not our business. We will not lobby, we will not make any statement whatsoever with regard to the plausibility of supporting an IDA for this company, which is associated with it.
I would think, at least for this evening, speaking in hypotheticals, I couldn't make that commitment one way or the other.
That's all I need to know.
Okay.
Same here.
Fair enough.
I have a question more related to the assessment question here, where, I mean, the question here is saying, if there was a property that was identified as good for a business, but that business had to make significant improvements to that property in order to make that property viable for that business, but the location is a good one, would it be because, would the assessment go along with those improvements and increase accordingly, or would that improvement not increase the assessed value because it is directly related to the business venture, which is part of the...
Well, the difference is really, if we don't own the property as a state entity,
Right.
then any improvements would
it would be
tax
part of the town
rolls.
assessor's
Yeah.
purview.
Right, yes.
Okay.
Corollary to that spelling, Richard. Okay, I'm a company, I am meeting your 3 expectations. I'm going to offer internships, I'm going to offer faculty research, I'm an incubator for whatever we want to be. And I come and we work out the relationship and I buy the property and I pay the property taxes and I do that aspect of it. But the relationship is so good and we both want to continue forward and just say, I feel as the business the need for tax relief. Is there been any thought given out there of the ability of my leasing to the college the property that I own now and paying taxes on? Has there been any thinking about that at all?
There's been...
By New Paltz?
By New...
Well, by the state.
I mean, there's
the sake of argument.
different SUNY colleges, I think, have had conversations dealing with leases in the way that you've described. Sure.
Yeah.
Any tangible specifics I can give you, I can't at this
So that's an unknown right now.
It's an unknown right now, to my knowledge at least. Yes.
Just at this point, I mean, we don't see ourselves getting in the real estate business and dealing with those aspects
You
of
might not
the
want to,
program.
but you might be forced to.
Well,
I mean,
We'll see.
let's be honest with that.
Yeah, we have to see, I mean, this is gonna
Lots
go
of
for,
things can happen from SUNY Albany, and
yeah, so it's a 10-year plan, I mean, people can, well, I guess it's up till, what?
2020.
2020, you can apply,
Yeah.
so it's the
what
benefits.
happens if a company goes bankrupt?
that would be a question to posit to Empire State Development. That would not be something at this time that
I know you're not gonna have, I'm just.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, that's more of a broad question. That would be for Empire State Development and taxation and finance. Those are going to be some of the regulators that ultimately have to approve a college's selection of a prospective company anyway.
Now, in the near future, should all of this come to fruition and a company that really meets your goal and wants to buy property, is there going to be the possibility of us sitting and collaborating again about our expectations as the village board and the college's expectation of how that whole thing will play out? You understand what I'm asking?
Well, the college has the lead role with respect to finding and approving business partners.
Right.
If that business partner is locating on an off-campus site, dealing with your initial questions here, SEQR and other zoning and expertise I give to you as a local municipality, that would be the role that I believe the program envisions for local review. So we would have academic review, we would have final decision with respect to a potential partner, but when it comes to locating off campus through any type of business that's looking to move and set up shop, so to speak, that's the review and the purview that a board would have.
We've said that, now let's deal in reality. Okay, and the reality is, it is very difficult in this community to get planning board review, to get seeker review. If you're gonna dump that over, and correctly so, onto the village board, and just say things are moving too slowly for the company that you want to connect with, are we going to have any kind of collaborative, problem-solving solutions, or are we going to be pitted against each other?
No, I would hope so,
But I think
but I would-
it's a real question.
But I would piggyback off of that to say part of the reason that we share the plan is for you to give us those comments as well. Because right now, we're taking in comments to try to finalize our document. So I encourage you to share that if that's what you're looking for, included in your written comments. So that's something that.
So might I suggest, following up on Sally's questions and comments, might this be something you would entertain? That when you move the project along and you've got businesses that are interested in partnering with the college, they have their own for-profit objectives, you have academic objectives and professional objectives for your faculty members. Will there be an advisory body that would be constituted of members of the college, members of the business, and potentially members of the village and even of the town, since I note that there are properties that you have on your list that go outside the village and are in the town?
Well, as it stands, based on the program itself, the review is with members of the college itself
I
in a
understand
prospective
that. I understand that's where you are now.
So if what you're saying is you want to be further involved in the process, again, I would encourage you to put those comments into us. But it's not, the process and the way that it was set up is that it's within the college's decision-making, whether or not to select a particular company that you would be aware of anyway by virtue, let's say hypothetically, of the environmental fire and everything that has to be taken care of as an off-campus site.
My question goes beyond the initial selection of partners that you have. As the program is now actually working, you have partners. They're conceiving of planning for implementing programs, maybe producing 3D products. Students are getting internships, faculty members are doing research. There are ongoing issues that are going to affect the village and, as I say, potentially also the town. Would there be, or is it conceivable that there would be an advisory body? I'm not talking about a decision body, an advisory body that would be informed of what's going on, what you're doing, what's in the planning, that we would be kept apprised of that, and there would be members of, say, the town village board who might be on that advisory committee.
I would again say that you should share that with us.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, that could be a written suggestion that you're making in comments.
I wrote it down.
Okay.
I think you should put that forward in that form, because then, this plan has to be approved by ESD too as well, so.
Even what Tom is asking, I'll be very frank.
Yeah.
College wants company X.
Yeah.
Company X wants within the community to do things that the planning board or the ZBA or whoever it is, seeker, are not moving as quickly or are not going to act favorably upon. Okay? Now we're in a stalemate. How how are we gonna resolve that stalemate? What is your recommendation? And
Yeah, and I think
not my recommendation, I think you're coming to us with ideas, and you're a player in this community, and this board is a player in the community. I think it's up to you to suggest how we're gonna resolve the stalemate. I don't necessarily think we need an advisory board, but we certainly need a mechanism where if things are not going
Picking up the phone.
on each side,
Sure.
that there is an arbitrator or some sort of arbitration system that is going to allow that stalemate to be resolved in a positive way for both sides.
So I think we have to.
Well, we have a number of issues here, because if there is such a mechanism, then how, we cannot instruct the planning board, for example, to do
No,
something.
that's what I'm saying.
So the planning board, if they're not moving, I mean, what are we gonna do? We can't say to the planning board, move.
We can tell them, they don't have to listen.
They don't have to listen.
But there is also something else that you can do, which we have not ever availed ourselves of, and that is an expedited planning process. And when and where that expedited planning process can and cannot be used. And I think that's something this board should think about doing vis-a-vis all planning and all businesses that are coming in and say they're a non-conforming use, but it's really a conforming use, because, and put people through the ringer all the time is not in our best interest.
But that's
or
not in
theirs.
particular to this project.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
well, but
well,
this
well,
is
it
gonna
could,
demand
it
it.
could
Potentially,
be, yes.
This is
Sure.
gonna
And I
demand
think
it.
whatever scenario presents itself, we're gonna have to work it through at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be.
I mean, we've been.
It's gonna be a case-by-case basis.
I think so,
Slightly
yeah.
remiss in not addressing this issue now. In the near future, this is gonna be an issue, so why?
Right, but that's something for us to address outside of this particular conversation. So I have two things. One is to go back to what Tom was saying regarding sort of an advisory body. I kind of also see a lot of potential collaboration. You know, I do these internships because I feel like there's not enough collaboration between the community and the campus. And I feel like if there was, you know, this business relationship between the college and a particular business, whether it's 3D printing or some other kind of, you know, light industrial or, you know, kind of job providing industry, you know, if there's research opportunities and there's a project at the village level that needs to be researched, I would love for there to be a collaboration on that and give students and faculty like a real world application that also helps out the community. So
And I think again, and I don't mean to be repetitive, but it's important in the process.
we will write this. I totally made a note of that.
That's
Yeah.
that's a fine point to make to us in your comments.
So my other question is about the SUNY Foundation. You know, for Park Point, for instance, you know, the SUNY proper did not purchase the land. So of course, you know, SUNY not wanting to get into real estate development, what does that mean for the SUNY Foundation? Will the SUNY Foundation look to purchase new properties?
Very good question.
I don't think the SUNY Foundation at this point in time is,
We're not talking about this point in time,
Yeah.
we're talking about in the future.
well, I can't.
Nobody can predict, no. But
I don't think.
Spectrum, I don't think you can make it.
have there been
End of the
any?
spectrum either.
I mean, have there been any conversations, you know, in terms of what role they might play?
Actually, no.
I think that is a question that we ought to address.
Well, we can write,
You're
yeah.
certainly welcome to.
Yeah.
You're certainly welcome to.
But it's,
The role, the role now and the future of the foundation becoming involved in this whole process. Now, I read the law and I did not think the foundation could be involved, but then I may be naive.
and some of this, we're sorting it out as well.
Because
I figured, yeah.
Questions are
It's
coming
all
up
pretty
all over the
new.
place
It's new
as,
for everybody.
Right.
you know,
Yes.
as people are trying to figure it out and
Because, I mean, the second two, I guess you could argue that the foundation has as their goal. The first is the academic link and promotion, that clearly is a foundation mission statement. The other two, I mean, you really have to twist the mission statement, but I've known
No, I would
mission
say,
statements to be twisted.
with some foreknowledge of the SUNY Foundation, not the New Paltz Foundation, but SUNY Foundation and other college and university foundations, they would be very interested in internships and research opportunities for students and faculty members. Many foundations have as a primary objective providing research opportunities for faculty members. So I would see number 2 as being directly in the purview of any university or college foundation, and if establishing lasting relationships with potential donors.
But just to be clear, those 3 criteria are referring to prospective business.
I know that because those prospective businesses will become
It's
sources.
certainly in those interests, in those 3.
Right.
And while SUNY New Paltz proper may not be wanting to be in the real estate business, that does not prevent the foundation from being in the real estate business. Taking property, developing it for a potential business, is all our tax rolls. So I think, Ariana, that's a very good question, and I think we should include it. What will the role of the foundation be in this?
Are you ready?
Then just to finish up these, let's see, would SUNY New Paltz be interested, referring to R3 district? And I didn't receive a map, but what I can say, and it does apply here to this question.
Oh,
It's a
typo.
Oh, B3.
It should be B3.
So the way that the draft plan is laid out.
Route 32 north, on the way to Kingston.
Gotcha.
Between here and Bosse's, think of it like that.
How B3, the blue?
Yeah, B3.
Yeah, the light blue.
Oh, the light blue, okay, all right, yeah.
So any, again, just what I said previously, any prospective business that partners with, example, commercial real estate agent, finds a property within that zone, and I'm gonna assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, a mile, 1.5, what would be?
Half mile.
Half mile, thank you.
From campus?
From campus.
The entire village is within a mile of campus.
Okay, so, right, so if a particular business is in that zone, has the potential to be located in that zone, and that property is not in our draft document that becomes a final document, the document, it can be amended where 2.5 years from now, again, for example, the business finds the best property they could find in that location, they can come back to us and say, we would like to formally request that this particular property be added into your plan. An amended plan goes out, goes for sharing, and then from there, the business gets in. And again, we don't want to get into the real estate business with respect to listing 28, 42, 200 properties on a list when we can go back and insert one that has already made a particular partnership. So if you have an interest in that particular area, I wouldn't say there's anything that would preclude from possible consideration of property in that area in the future.
Okay, that statement confuses me a little.
Okay, let me try to clarify.
No, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
And then.
Sure.
You're saying within the plan, you're saying within scope. Why is the college concerned about what property I buy as a potential partner with you? If I'm meeting these 3 criteria, we're going to form a relationship. Why do you need a list? Why are you at all concerned what property I buy to develop this business that I'm going to have in a relationship with you?
Part of the requirements dictate through Startup New York a listing of property. And when you get to this...
See, that's what bothers me.
But I think where you're feeling confused, if I can try to help out here. So that piece of property along the corridor, let's say there's a 3-acre parcel and this company, hypothetical company, wants to buy it, and they want to take advantage of all the other tax benefits other than the
Such as?
property tax bill, such as payroll, tax breaks,
Franchise
and
fees.
franchise fees.
Income
and-
tax.
Mortgage.
So they can get other things
Mortgage
waived.
tax, sales tax exemption?
Mortgage tax, I'm not sure off the top of my head.
What about sales
Folks, I
tax
want to just,
exemption?
But it-
I want to interrupt just briefly because we have 13 more agenda items to go
Mm-hmm.
and we've been here for 2 hours. So if we
And them.
could be concise in our comments, that's all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So does that make sense that that property would have to be part of our startup plan for that company to get those other benefits?
Yes.
We're not
Did
buying
you
it.
get that?
We're not buying the parcel, they are.
Right.
The
But they're-
business.
but
And
they're
they,
gonna
But it would
connect
need
up,
to
so
be-
they are gonna get
Basically get it by.
they're gonna get
program.
exemptions,
Right, but
but not,
sales tax and those things.
Yeah.
Right, right, right.
I need a
Yeah.
list of what exempt.
Yeah.
I would like
because the
a list.
the state taxing
I would like a
authority, you know,
list of
taxation and
exempt-
finance.
Sorry, wait, I'm sorry, one person at a time, please.
So the Office of State Taxation and Finance has to, know which part, which areas are gonna
Qualify for
qualify,
what?
what businesses, where they're located, and what they're gonna
Right.
qualify for.
But
So,
Shelley,
Yeah.
clarify.
Mhm.
The original statement that there would not be tax impact on the community is not really clearly true because a sales tax exemption on building a $3 million property is a serious, serious deficit of income to Ulster County. So it is not as straightforward. And so I would like, one of the questions is, what are the hidden exemptions that are being provided?
And they're not hidden, they're actually
Yeah,
fully
I-
public
I
available
will-
on the
we
website.
would like a list of
Yeah.
all the specific tax exemptions.
And it's all available on the startup
Yeah.
website. It's-
One at a time, please, so we can
Yeah, I
finish
would,
this and move
I
on.
would encourage if, whenever you have the opportunity, if you go to the startup website, there is an FAQ page that breaks it down for businesses, academic institutions, there's taxing information. The state set it up to assist multiple stakeholders in this process, so if you want to take a look at that,
And
it might
sales
be
tax
helpful.
exempt more
The final, just to finish here, the final question, in terms of the property, let me see, recently, New Paltz purchased property on 132. At this time, we don't have a specific plan yet what our intentions with that property are. You will notice that
Okay.
it is on our plan as a potential option, but no
Right.
definitive decision's been made to date.
Okay. I was very curious about that, just knowing the size of the lot and the footprint that's currently being, occupied.
Occupied?
Yeah, because it's just such a huge property that a lot could happen there, and,
Yeah.
so
And
people
that
were
was-
definitely
that
very
was
curious
prior
about
to
that.
That was prior to Startup New York.
Right, it said that in the plan, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's all we have.
Any other questions? Okay.
I asked all mine.
But I do
Thank you
appreciate
both
the
for
comment.
coming out, yes.
Yeah, thank
Shelley,
you very much.
Richard,
Thank
thank you very much.
My Richard,
Pleasure.
my former professor, by the way.
Yes.
And while Tina and I blanking on your name, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda. While Tina and Linda are coming up,
Not at all.
I would like to move to table item number 7 for our next meeting. The rental property.
Rental property.
Let's just do that at another time. I'm just trying to shave down the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Is Rebecca?
Yeah, that's fine, because
Nine.
it's going back to
Okay. So we have Linda and we have Tina again from NAMI. Survived.
Yay!
All right. So you've got a park use request and a request to waive some of the conditions. Does anyone have any questions, or did you want to say
I had
anything?
one right off the bat, just because we don't provide tables and chairs and tents. So I was just making sure that that was communicated to you. Okay, I figured you knew that, so.
I had the same question and I wasn't sure that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
When I read it through, since Alberta and Tina have been talking so much, between us, we've communicated. No, we don't actually do that.
Cool. Just want to make sure.
Great.
That's a big thing for an event.
Why don't we start
And we
from
explain
back?
how peddling works for the food vendors.
Okay, cool.
Does anyone object or have a question or concern about one of NAMI's requests?
Well, they need permits for their food vendors, which I think you know.
We communicated that.
And that's not right. I would think that we would have to move to waive the insurance fund.
Well, I actually was able to get one from Nami, so Alberta. Yeah,
Good. But we didn't come till later, so that's why it's not in the packet.
So I'm going to move to approve.
It's waiving, but move to approve, and are you going to waive the park use fee, which is the?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she's moving to, I'll second that. Is there discussion?
No.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
See, we should have gotten you up earlier. I'm sorry to keep you waiting
Can
here
we just
so
ask
long.
you a little bit about, we wanted some music, and is there electricity available?
There is electric available.
There is, where the gazebo is in Hasbrook Park, there's a pole behind there that does have outlets.
Mindful of the mental health of your neighbors.
You're right, we'll be good.
Do you want to put a restriction about acoustic music, or do you want it?
No, we allow electric music there. No.
It's 11 to 2.
It's
I
a
think
very
we're
time
okay.
limited
Yeah.
event.
There is, I don't know who has it, but there is a platform that can be put up.
Oh, you mean from the one we had for the 125th?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can.
Do we
could
still
do
have
it.
that?
Yeah, Steve, I think it's at Steve Costa's house.
Steve Casa has it.
Or Ryan
Okay.
Cronin, maybe the Cronin's house, somewhere around. We'll
Well,
find it.
Let's hope it's around.
I don't know where it is right off the top of my head. Ryan Cronin built it, is all I know.
Because I'm fairly certain that Yoko wants it for the Bombador Dance Festival also.
R-A-U-S.
R-A-U-C-H.
The other thing is, would we be able to get some sort of letter of intent for us to, when we approach
No,
the
they're
health agencies, or so that we can say that we're actually, so this is a legit event we're doing? So-
I mean, you'll be able to have the minutes of our board meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just,
Is that
Is that enough?
Do you want like a letter of support?
They decided to do.
Well, whatever you would want to do.
Katie,
If you'd want to do a letter.
would you give them a copy of the approved park use form?
there we go.
Okay, oh, that's good, there you go. That's perfect, that'll show. The other thing is, would you be able to attend the event?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
So would you be able to make a little speech?
I would
with me?
be honored.
Okay,
Thank
awesome.
you.
And then.
As long as, I mean, I'll look at my phone later and double check, but
I'll send you a note.
thank you.
Colleagues, did you understand that when I moved to waive, it included waiving, charging them for electricity?
Yes.
Yes.
We understood.
Thank you. And then one last thing is, what's your suggestion on how to advertise this event?
Broadly,
Flyers, Facebook, newspapers.
Yeah, if you want to start a Facebook page event for it, you can invite all of us.
call the New Paltz Times.
Yeah.
And they'll run
we'll,
a thing.
we'll invite people.
Clerk to put it on the village website, you could ask the town to put it on the town website.
I could send you my event organizing checklist. It includes many local publications and
All right.
things like that. Yeah, of course. It's good to have
We should
you.
probably just send it to all of us, let's just be honest.
Yeah, just send it right now.
All right, anything else you need, Tina?
Yeah, they need locations.
Folks? What do you-
20 posters, I put one in each church, one in family,
Yeah.
one at the college.
Laundromats.
One in each of these buildings.
Okay.
And the
And you could
supermarkets.
use the website, you could use the poster on the website, which would be the best way to advertise.
All right, anything else you guys need?
I guess I just wanted to thank you. Yeah, Ally couldn't make it tonight, but I personally want to thank you because after the first meeting, my daughter came home in the car with me and she really couldn't stop talking about how amazing you were. I think for her, it's hard, really joke, to say, I'm going to try to Craigslist and find friends that struggle just like her. Because I don't get what she goes through every day. I know it's a hard thing to do, to be regulated and how, right? And I think she was just so, amazed that, that night you had a really long meeting and, you did your thing and for her it was a role model. And, I think for me as a parent, I can tell her things, but I can't,
You're not
make it
there.
happen. Yeah, and so I wanted to thank you just personally because.
Thank you, it was my
You're
pleasure.
keeping my daughter in recovery, and I hope that you know.
You know what?
You really are. because,
Thank you so
that's
much.
great.
You made my night,
She
thank you.
really talks about you a lot, because, when she's, thinks that she doesn't want to do or she can't, so, you know what,
Mary Les can do it, and it's cute. She's 20 years old, but
Oh, that's adorable. Thank you.
It's, I think again, it's, you know, being so open about it is sort of our mission too. To be, it's okay to talk about it, but also showing people that you can have a very productive life, you know, and everybody should be open to that. And you know, again, as a mom, I'm really doing thank you because I look back at a year and a half ago and we're not in a good place. And she's made such a huge, you know, jump in recovery. And it's just because she has reminders of that, you know, finding hope and being able to have a life. So, you know,
Thank you, Tina.
Okay.
That means a lot. You made my night. Thank you.
We wish you the best for your job.
yeah, you know, and you have to stay hopeful. That's what, you know, we always say. So, and we, again, NAMI really thanks you very much, and all the other mental health agencies too, to have this opportunity to show the community that mental health is a priority, you know, and it has to
And
be.
now we'll put fingers crossed for no rain.
Exactly. Well, thank you for being patient again, and thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
And with that, I think I'm going to call a 10-minute recess. We've been sitting for too long.
Forrest, do you want my checklist also? I already added you to this email. Tina. I know. Tina, what is your email address? I'll send it to you now.
Let me give you a call.
For a year. You slept for a year.
I feel that.
Here you go.
Thanks so much.
Awesome, no problem. Yeah, it's great for like New Paltz. I mean, it's good anywhere, but it really like
Okay,
has
no,
some
no,
specific
that would
things
help.
to it. so.
Absolutely. You know, how much to do it.
And we already have it on the village calendar that May also submitted.
Good.
So, you know, whatever we can keep doing to help, we
Just pray for no rain.
It's Kentucky Derby Day. It's not allowed to rain in Kentucky Derby Day. Whenever I organize events, my students would say, "What if it rains?" I'm like, "It's not going to rain.
It's not gonna rain."
We're not even going to talk about it because
Yep.
it's not going to rain."
That's right.
And it wouldn't rain. Although we had some close calls.
Okay, well, put that order in.
Yeah. Just think sunny. It's sunny thoughts.
You cannot have rain in your mid-July.
Pardon me, it's just not going to happen.
Thank you, ladies. Okay, take care. Okay, bye-bye.
Good. I probably won't stick around for more.
That's fine.
Well, but
That's fine.
I wanted to stop by. I was over
Thank
to see your master.
Yeah, what were you doing there?
Trying to convince them to be more active. That one?
Not really, no. Dan Meltner has a lot of that. Yeah, he's worked with a lot of that. So he's part of like the board and that big work.
I went 5 months. So I kind of just showed up tonight. And I
Good for you.
well, because I'm like, you know, hey, we're doing this now. Hey, we're doing this now. Thank you, not in any way. You know, oh, yeah, thank you. We're doing this. So anyway, it's just been like this constant law. And anyway, so I think of it as just an insular group that does their own thing. They're really active. I just walked into the campus away from Main. They have like sustainability campaign. They got, I can't remember what else, like composting.
Yeah, they have good like farm to table, farm kind of like food and composting initiatives.
They don't want to talk to me.
Oh, that's the 2 to 4 hours.
This year. Don't you organize one birthday? You know, you don't need each need your own. You organize together in farm fest areas here, and the conferences there, and the happy fairs here, and it's like, you know, all these people. You just this suiting. What can just here, they're all we all talked about it, and I was like, yeah, that sounds great. But then they all joined it, and they couldn't write agree on days, and they all went.
So your group,
No, we're not doing anything. The environmental task force, because I've done that. I didn't even stay there. I don't know. But I was like, oh, we had a movie screening, like, easy, you know. But other than that, it's like, I just want to support. We'll get funding, we'll send emails, or whatever. But like these kids, they've got their own idea, what they want to do, they need to do their own, like, whatever. I get it. I just said,
and if we can get them to start, that'd be good. They're going to us though down, we're having a event down in Paris. since I was 18.
That's what you're doing, Erica?
Yeah, well,
Nice.
no.
He was on board with Take One event.
Yeah,
Of
he's
course.
great. I mean,
Just gets it,
I
yeah.
used to, at the beginning, like a year ago, had a hard time getting attention, but now it's, and so now, the last whole year, we've been working great. And also, believe it or not, still looking to hold that regional meeting. So someone suggested this trail, like, we can't, we want to have 50 people. There's no
I know you're happy. I am too. It's like, give me if people know where we're going, it's easily get there. But it's like, students, they're not in it.
Zooming down.
Yeah, I mean, I walk
He was so booked up.
Yeah.
That's it, right? Was it so
fast, and there's dirt on
Middle school.
Skids all the way down, and then boom, it takes off.
Yeah.
That helps. I mean, he didn't make the decision, but you actually get your contact.
Right there.
All right, yeah, we're doing
This guy was
No, not at all. And so I'm on the Safe to Schools committee. We've got this feasibility study grant, and we met.
They're working, it's too damn cold today.
What are the facilities per no? Who was the person that does that? Maybe it's but whatever works. The community center sounds good, but I agree, that's my first thought was, it is not centrally located, and I'm not going to get city students.
What is this region?
For New York, when you go to River Hill, it's embarrassing, but in the finger, I said, wherever else. It's like as if we don't exist, and so.
I mean, environmental task force.
But that's how you manage to work better than I do.
The kids are great.
New York City is
We honor them.
wasn't until just a few years ago.
I just said to me that they what's the
But somebody is doing something
like club events.
Right, but we don't want that.
So then where do you need that?
Oh, Katie, you want these in the trustee's office?
Yes, let's go. The CSD auditorium, they have like 350 people. It's 16, so tell me when you're, okay, so honor center.
You were in Amsterdam.
Okay, now I'm connecting it. Because this is part of why I was like, what are you doing? Because she asked the environmental test, you know, what we're looking for students. And so we were working with her on the street, and we said to her, if you're working with students, she's like, we're united on this students, you know. And I'm like, well, if you're working with students about students, you don't need us to book a room for you. You have to be new possible. Or every But it's like, you know, because we're always just like, you know, we don't just do it because we're an agency and do it. Like, you know, I'm talking to you, you come to all kinds of events, like, you know, I'm like, you're very, like, you have an agenda that I know what's on. But Julie, I'm like, well, tell me what you want to do. And it's like pulling teeth. And so we said to her, like, you know, give us 1, 2, we very clearly laid out our shit. She did not agree.
It becomes dysfunctional.
Because
Yes,
what we're
I'm
doing
talking
is,
to you right now.
but she wants to call this Hudson Valley United Against That's actually what it's called.
The sound is completed.
She,
So I would start doing a hula dance.
I don't think she,
I just don't want to be on the phone.
it's an iPad.
15 maybe?
This is it, Student Summit Space. So she had written an email, I would have to, oh, here's the first one. All right. And this was her first email, she wrote to Brian Novak.
Right.
And so this is what she called it, with the NRDC, Anti-Fracking Pro-Renewable Student Network.
30 people, it's gotta be something different. Because she said to me, I said 50, she's like, it needs to be bigger than that. So she's, I don't know.
Well, that's the whole thing. And so we were like, what is your thing?
I'm
What
gonna
is it?
pretend I don't know that what you just told me because.
All right. Well, and then we sent her this other follow-up email, like
When was started,
the first one
roughly.
was sent. She sent it Friday, March 14th.
What's your world? Okay.
And then Brian responded,
Right.
and he wrote to us.
We go back
And
on
then the
April.
follow-up that we sent
We will go back on
was
April.
5
It
days
doesn't matter,
ago.
just roughly, like a week.
Yeah,
That's
March
basically a weekish
21st.
ago, right?
Yeah.
1-2 weeks ago tops.
Next week and a half.
We're talking now, I'm trying to nail
So
her.
thank God
we're nailing
I'm
Jello
ready
to
to
the
be
wall.
done.
So,
My
we were-
patience has now been exhausted.
Yes.
It's entirety.
and,
She
My
does so
patience
much
has
good
been
work.
exhausted. It's
Susan
entirety.
and I,
Yeah.
she's directly, in fact, she's sort of technically not really my boss, but she's in,
Oh, that's so
in, the,
funny.
in the group that's in charge of the whole organization. Food and Water Watch is officially the organization that
Right.
Well, anyway, so she wants to do what I thought was a meeting in the Hudson Valley United Against Fracking was the group title for that.
Okay.
It was 50 people or more. She was talking like 75, but we were hoping to get truly 50 people. This sounds different. It sounds like something else she's doing. They never told me about that. And I'm supposed to be the one. This happens all the time too. They do stuff and they don't tell me anything about it.
Not
She did like
No one
that.
said to me, hey, bye.
Thanks, Brian. I've CC'd my
We
colleagues.
started
Bob.
kindergarten prep with our little boy. We started to do kindergarten prep with our little boy.
She used to
My sister.
Next year?
So that must
No,
be.
And it's we're inviting a group of environmental
Another year of
students.
preschool.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh,
So,
so it is
But at
different
least
then.
we started
Okay.
to-
It's a different concept. What I'm talking about
Okay.
is just literally, quote,
I said to my husband one day over tea, I said,
It goes from just below Albany, as far as I'm concerned, all the way down to Westchester.
right, exactly.
I'm not gonna do, we're not gonna, really gonna care about Westchester, we'll do something else. We're really looking from Newburgh to where I am in Columbia.
Yeah,
And I want to, I think you guys are in the middle. What am I mostly like that?
but
And
you know,
again, you guys
if
probably
Sesame
more
Street
than
comes to the door, I didn't realize that that's for copyright.
Right.
So
You know who was in our office?
you and Rosendale and all the other.
The woman who directed that?
Woodstock, that was the most active.
Oh my God.
What is
that's
looking
She's making a short documentary about New Falls, so I'm gonna give her your
Oh,
number.
wow.
holy crap.
Anytime
Yeah.
within
Okay,
at
that
least
sounds
2
great.
weeks from now, if not 3 weeks from now.
What is the date you're looking at? Like around Earth Day?
Yeah, I would love, I really wanted this time before Earth Day, but that's,
Sorry, no, someone over chairs back here.
yeah, Earth Day is there, right?
Second.
That's tough.
So if I don't do this really, really fast, I'm not gonna have it.
Okay, just let Katie know. She'll add it to the list.
Eric,
Yeah.
is that tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I've lived
What am I doing
I
now?
moved to Church Street in 1996 and have spent most of the last years living there.
All right.
The
Well, then hell.
I'm
that also
I'm even thinking that a great day to do it is April 30th.
Okay.
the other issues, but.
And that gives us over a month,
Right.
takes the pressure off. If you're available.
Someone with a physical geography of it.
Really get on prospect.
It's our next one. We had one yesterday. We've been having them. Coming up on Earth Day, we're doing a lot of like.
We had, I had somebody come out and show Rock one night.
Post Climate Action Coalition too?
Because
Kind of. I would
literally,
say
I
weeks
could
ago
go
and
into
play
the back of the
tomorrow.
Armstrong
Not
Rock
right,
and remind everyone.
yeah. But if you want me to say anything
I'm at the
about
No,
this
that's
event,
fine.
I mean, every Thursday.
I
there's
will
plenty of
tell.
And I was,
I know, right?
they were
There's
coming
no shortage of
out.
meetings. I can't really sustain that kind of meeting.
I can't do that.
And my mammoth task force is 7, what time is it?
It's the
Because
8th.
I, Village
April
Gardens,
8th
I
at
said, go back here and
In the
1:45.
middle of it. Actually, I might just want to do that.
And the screaming and the la 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 la.
Where do you guys meet?
We meet at SUNY New Paltz.
They're all, but last year before that.
You don't get my email?
No, I'd be doing this with you, because even if I'm not really like.
Well, it's a
gonna be
group,
able to
it's a
comment.
group group.
So I
Send
went
the
up
invite
the
or
next
let me know
morning,
the group it is.
8 o'clock in the morning.
Sign up.
How do I?
What was that again before you get out of that? Was 1 p.m.?
1:45.
I'd like to speak to the renter here. And she's like, oh, she's like,
Really? So we're just gonna start time?
It's because of classes. Classes end
Right,
at
okay.
like 1.
For an hour or so, right?
Yeah, we meet till 3 o'clock.
So 3 o'clock.
1:45 to 3. We're generally like we're done by 3 because there's another group that comes in and meets.
Okay, what room is that gonna be again? I'm sorry.
It's the Jacobson Faculty Tower.
Oh, anyway, yeah.
And it's room 1010. It's the top floor. You go to the 10th floor. It's a conference room.
Ooh, what are you doing there? I love that room.
Oh, I meet there regularly. I run the environmental task force.
Oh, okay. Is he from Bentwood?
No.
No. This is Forrest Cotton.
Hi, nice to meet you. You're Sarah?
I'm
Sally.
Sally, I'm sorry, Sally.
Nice to meet you. And your name is?
Forrest Cotton.
Okay.
So,
Are you
Jacobson-
related to all the Cottons?
Sure. Actually,
There are
technically-
Cottons in New Paltz.
Oh, there are.
A lot.
Technically related to Joseph Cotton, but very distantly.
But
so
it's
about the
cotton with an EN, not an EN.
Right.
So different,
Yeah.
Different one.
Not the
different
fabric of your
family
life,
name.
but close. So Jacobson Faculty Tower, 145, ETF. Excellent, okay.
So watching us.
Yeah, here, I will just forward this email to you. I think you might, if I said, I don't know if you can or not. I think I have to add you to this group. But it's NP Environmental Task Force is the people group, so I don't know about.
Well, if you forward the link to me, then who's the admin?
I'm the manager.
Well, then
So I can just
either
add
approve
you.
it as- Okay, either way. That was April 8th, by the way, right?
April 8th, yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We'll put you on the agenda.
Right. Well, and I'll also be here for, what was the event you had? The,
Oh, that's the day before.
yeah, the day before.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Yes.
So that's my job. Just drive back and forth between Albany and.
Might look right to see.
I was down in
the height of the things.
Nyack. 3 days.
Actually, I covered it all.
Yeah.
All right.
This is pretty good. This is an hour, 45, maybe an hour. So.
Okay. No, that's fine.
Well, you have
and
to
12,
do it
but
not
let
by
me know
each
how
by
the
height.
conversation goes.
You can bring.
I mean,
Yeah, I think
we're all right.
You gotta be shorter than Ariana to play in there.
If my husband brings them, they can come.
You know, I'm trying to figure out how do you,
I'm obviously like,
how do you decide whether letting people talk versus shutting them up versus?
Somebody said to me, public input will be 15 minutes.
That's not a bad idea.
I'm like, well,
Is there anything else that we can table that is reasonable to table? Well, number 10.
Even more than
No, and you're gonna talk about the today, right?
Yeah.
Okay. 10 I want to talk about just briefly because it may bear on the budget. 11 and 12, we'll see what Ariana says.
what am I saying? Thank you.
We're just looking to see if there's other stuff to table, and that would make sense to table.
Get out of here.
Like the polls for business signs, do we?
I just need you to write the letter now.
Okay.
I got the address.
So actually the rest is pretty simple, I think.
17, 18, 19 will take 5 minutes.
Let's burn through this a little bit.
All right.
See where we're at in half an hour.
What do you want to do first?
I want to do this. I move the consent agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
6, the budget. There's 2 items. One is a request from me, and one is Sally's going to report on the meeting we had this morning.
On our questions.
On our questions, yeah. One is to make sure that it's,
And we should act on those tonight.
yeah, to make those changes. Why don't you just go into that then?
What are you talking about? I'm sorry.
Number 6. We're going right down the list here. Number 6. Sally and I had a meeting today with Blue, Heather, and Nancy about our budget questions from our last
Came out. Everybody got a summary from me.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
This is not relevant to anything.
Which email address did you use for me? Do you know? Which email address did you use?
Your deputy mayor.
Okay,
I sent it right after the meeting.
Okay, all right, let me take a look.
It looks like this.
And unless someone has an objection, I think it would probably make the most sense to talk about the board salaries at the public hearing meeting. And I'm going to keep the agenda clear so we can have as long a conversation as we want about that without exhausting ourselves.
All right, so
If that's
we
all right.
should
But
try and
we'll
get
talk about
everything else
that.
done.
But let's talk about
All right.
Sally's thing first.
Okay. So the second paragraph, we agreed, and I want to make sure that we all understand this. We agreed that non-union employees hired within the last 12 months are not eligible for a salary increase. Jason and Blue and Nancy suggested the second part be stricken. Upon the 1-year anniversary, a salary increase could be recommended by the mayor, but as they pointed out, that'll create budget problems. So it will be 1 year, 2 months or whatever. Now, there was conversation about salary increases for certain employees. If you are a union employee, that is not our domain. That is all done by negotiated contract.
And we'll
So
go,
that would include,
we'll go into executive session later to discuss the others.
Yeah.
As well as another
Right.
issue that we have.
so, anybody in the building department, with the exception of the planning board secretary and the new planner, are union employees. Therefore, that's negotiations. Okay, now, strike paragraph number 3 because some evaluations have been done, and so we will deal with that in executive
Yeah.
session. And the stipends have to be in contingency because you're going to make an evaluation at the end of this fiscal year as to whether
Right.
you want those positions continued. So,
Well, I think, well, let's talk about that in executive
okay,
session
you
as
want
well.
that whole
Yeah.
thing, okay. Now, here's where we get a little complicated. We are removing from the building department, A3620, 2,000 legal fees and engineers because they're elsewhere in the budget. However, we want to keep that 2,000 and move it over to DPW because there is a proposal, as you remember when Bren was here, about leasing a car for the building department. It is Blue's recommendation, and Nancy and Jason concur, that we should buy a village car.
Okay.
Okay?
Not a building department car.
It's not a building department
Then
car.
I-
It is going to
yes.
be a village official car.
That's right.
And we are going to have a very tight, strict procedure on when that may be used. It
Under
will-
the control of Blue as fleet
It
manager.
will be under the
Yeah.
control of Blue.
I'm not in favor
It
of
will be
this.
parked here. Doesn't go home overnight. It will be bought on state bid. And Blue thought about 14,000?
That's his estimate, yeah.
Okay.
So,
And-
I'm sorry, read, pause after that item, if you wouldn't mind. After the car.
I'm paused.
Okay. Ariana objected, so,
I'm not in favor of this. I think it creates more maintenance for the village, more bureaucracy in terms of how to deal with who gets it, when somebody gets it, just things that are not things we have to deal with now. And I don't think that we should add more to the plate of the village, cost-wise and time and resources, when it's not necessary.
Tom, Rebecca, your initial thoughts? Well, one of the things that came up was that this would replace mileage cost and conferences and travel, things like that.
Which are infrequent, but.
Do we have an estimate for what mileage costs are for the year?
Well, for the building department, it's $778
For a year?
for the building department this year so far. We're not through the year.
And then, I'm sorry, what was the annual price of the car was 1,200?
They wanted, no, it was 2,800 to lease a car.
2,800 for a year.
For the
2,800
year.
a year.
For three-
And that
for-
didn't include the insurance.
That did not include the insurance.
Right, okay.
Do we know what it, I mean, I don't drive, so I have no idea what car insurance costs.
Well, this would,
50 to 100, depending on what you're insuring.
A month.
Depending on
yeah,
what type,
but
what type
So
of,
that
this
could
would
be,
go in under fleet insurance.
right, we
which
have
is a
a,
it would be lumped in with everything
Yeah.
else, so
Lot
it would
cheaper.
not be, right.
And I believe Blue and Nancy, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, thought everything, fuel for the year, insurance, and the purchase was 18,000.
that sounds
They
about right.
thought that would cover it.
18,000
That would cover it.
Total.
And-
for this year.
No, and it would last
Every year.
for, no, the purchase is outright.
That's what I'm saying.
The purchase, yeah.
So that's
purchase
this
is,
year.
That
It would be a 1 year,
One-time $18,000
Yep.
expense.
and then you'd have to amortize it over the life of the vehicle,
Which Blue
Which
projects is 10
depreciates
years.
regularly.
Blue,
instantly.
Instantly.
Blue,
This is not something I think we should do.
okay, Blue, I'm just,
Don't kill the messenger.
yeah, don't kill the messenger. Yet.
I will never.
At least not for this reason.
Jeez.
Lou believes that this vehicle will last us 10 years. I held the position you did. I am less vehement now because when you go to a water meeting with Blue, it would be used for that as opposed to using your own car. And I've never asked for mileage, and I probably should, but I don't.
Well, I didn't ask for mileage.
So, you know, that's our choice.
Yeah, great.
You know, if the three of us went to a conference instead of having to use cars, we could go. When we went to Saratoga, we could have taken
Right.
the car.
But with the number of people who went, we still would have had to bring an additional car.
No.
Yeah, because it was
4 of us.
5 of us, and we went at different times.
Well, that's true.
You know, it wouldn't have made the mileage obsolete in that case. I just don't think it's I just don't think it's fiscally responsible.
Well, we haven't heard from Rebecca yet.
Well, at my day job, we do have a fleet of vehicles. We obviously travel, we have a much bigger agency, and we do a lot more travel than the village would, but I don't think it's unreasonable. One, the conference idea is key, because there's been times where I could have attended a conference and didn't for that reason, because I had no way to get there by public transportation. You know, even like all my doctor's appointments I do by public transportation. But wear and tear on the vehicles of the village employees, the IRS reimbursement does consider that in, as well as, you know, obviously the price of fuel. But I think that there are some things that happen, like people going to make bank deposits, just a lot of little things where, I don't know if Katie...
Nickel and dime. Adds up quick
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
exactly. And I think also having a vehicle that has the village seal when our inspectors go out, when our clerks go out.
Or during a state of emergency.
Yes.
That's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Being able to drive around in Irene and not...
Yes, yeah. I think, you know, there's issues like that. Also, in terms of, you know, where we're parking and things like that, I think it's advantageous.
Well, I want to say, I have no objection in principle, but I think we need to consider whether it's politic of us at this time to invest $18,000 if the annual cost that we can point to at this time is less than $1,200.
Well, that's the building department.
Right.
Just,
So what is
the true number?
What is
I don't think anyone has calculated it.
I don't think we know.
Well, I think without calculating it, there's no justification.
Yeah, I think you need
I wouldn't say there's no justification, but...
There's no financial justification.
Well, I'd still disagree with
I
that.
think that there are
I'd still disagree with that, but I think it's a matter of, does not, not everything has to make us money. Like, not everything has to be revenue neutral. It may be more, it may be more expensive to have a car, but it still may be a good idea. So, and I think for the reasons Rebecca explained,
we
I'm
have
in favor
a
of it.
policy for where we, promote walking.
When I go the reverse, and it is the building department that requested it, and until Blue suggested this, I was going to recommend we get a golf cart for the building department to use. Because
it would be
2 square
electric,
miles,
it would be charged.
that would be the thing to do. And buy one outright, because we use it for various things. I mean, Matt, if he was going to do parking way out, it would probably be reasonable for him to use it.
Yeah.
So I'm of two minds. I think the key issue here is it politic to do? I
And
really do.
what do you mean by politic? You mean
How will,
an ethical use of taxpayer money?
Yeah.
it's not even an ethical question. Does it send the wrong message?
I'm
About
looking
our
at is it a tool that whose use would be worth the price? Is really all, I just see there's another piece of equipment, another tool like a hydro camera.
I can achieve the same thing. And
Right.
see, I don't want to speak for myself because that's unfair. I don't charge for mileage.
I'll speak for you.
Okay.
So,
I don't charge for mileage. I mean, there are things that I don't charge for that I'm lucky I don't have to. But there are people who want to serve on the board, who do serve on the board, who may not be in that same situation. And I don't think I should.
Right.
Yeah, and I agree with that, but I don't know that that's a telling point for this decision.
It's for me.
I agree. So, as I said, I just went to Kingston. I didn't even consider putting in mileage to go to Kingston and back. But someone who was in need, someone who didn't have available revenue, I would say that they should put in for mileage.
And I wouldn't have a problem
With that, I would have no problem. Not even the shadow of a problem.
Exactly.
But does that have a significant impact on what I think about the purchase of the car? I think what would help me is if I knew, what are we spending it?
Right.
And what would this...
you mean on mileage now?
Yeah, what would this
total
replace? And is it worth the expenditure and...
Yeah. See, I don't think it's going to be a one-to-one or even a benefit.
It doesn't
Well,
have
it
to...
doesn't have to be a one-to-one, but what is it?
Oh, what is it? Oh, okay. Because for me, I think it's a good idea. Well, I was a little bit nervous because it seemed like an excessive expenditure, but Blue kind of won me over, and Heather as well. Let's give credit where credit's due. Heather made some good arguments too. So I think it's a useful tool whose price
But
exceeds
then I
its
thought
value.
about
Or
what
the other way around.
Then I thought about what he said, and he said, well, when 5 of us go to a conference, okay, and I'm thinking, you better not 5 of you be leaving DPW and going to a conference.
Well,
But I didn't think of that at
Here's
the time.
the bottom line question. We have two options right now. We can vote on this now, or we can have had the conversation, come back and see at the public hearing next time.
That's
and
what
make
I
a
would,
decision then.
that's what I would prefer.
I have one more thing. I'm in agreement with this.
Yeah,
I just
okay.
have one more thing I'd like to add is in terms of our walking policy, you see a lot more when you're walking.
Oh yeah.
If you're in a car, and I would even be more in favor of the golf cart idea.
See, I think the golf
than
You see a
the
lot more in a
car,
golf cart,
because
too.
you see more in a golf cart than
You
you
would
do.
not have wanted to be out today in a golf cart.
I think the golf
I
cart.
walked today.
I walked
They have
today also.
Yeah,
sealed ones.
and that's the thing. The village, anybody who wants to serve on the village board can walk to Village Hall because they have to live in the village.
Right.
So it's not far.
Well, this is not an issue for me.
No, if you were
nor
driving
me.
here, I would say
Hey,
shame.
I live the farthest away from Village.
I can roll across the street.
Yeah, but so I think that should play into our thought process as well in promoting driving.
But I
Yeah,
would
like-
like to suggest, because I'm not sure that getting the figures is going to help at all, because I don't think the figures, I know what the building.
We can see how close and how far away.
It would help me.
Very far
It would help me just in having all of the pieces I would like to have and make it.
But
my
I
decision.
would like to suggest that it's not a yay or nay.
Yeah, it's not really.
I would really recommend
I'm
the
open
golf.
to.
Let's bring this up again at the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
After we get some more information.
What's the next topic?
Let's find out the cost of the golf cart too, Jason.
Okay.
Okay.
What's the next topic?
Rebecca, did you have something? Or can we move on?
Yeah, just one other thing. I'm not, really pulled one way or another, but another issue with having a vehicle is that you can have a vehicle that gets much better gas mileage than one of the DPW trucks if they need to do something DPW related, where they would normally
Right.
be taking one of our
I'm
trucks.
buying a Prius.
With a plow on it.
Prius
All right,
don't
all
cost
right, let's move on.
$18,000.
Sally, what's next on our list?
I know.
What's next on the list? Let's move
Okay.
on. It's 10:10.
I'm listing.
Oh, actually, while you're looking, I'd also like, with the board's permission, to table number 10.
On what? The agenda?
Yeah.
I've got budget.
I know you were looking. I'm trying to be
What's
efficient.
number 10?
Fees
Local
and
law,
fines.
no,
Because
yeah.
I got more information from Rich today, and I'll incorporate that and bring it up
All
next
right.
time.
Then that really goes with the other anyway.
Yeah.
We recommend that Brogan's time not be increased, that Brogan was hired to work.
Be careful not to drift into executive session.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is the camera still on?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
let's-
it is.
Hey, let's leave all the personnel stuff to executive. We gotta go, remember, we have to go to executive session
All right.
for the other issue anyway.
We have added $1,500 more to the training line
For the
Right.
planning department.
for the planning department.
Okay.
Any objection?
No.
Okay.
No. You wanna move it?
I'll move that we make that amendment. Second? Is it-
Second.
All in
Yeah,
favor?
a second.
Aye.
These need to go to Nancy in the morning.
Yes.
Okay, what's next?
Okay, we talked about the car. The 5 street lights authorized by the board, Ariana,
Yep.
to be added are in this year's budget and will be done in this year's budget.
Okay.
Okay, so
Good.
that's not a budgetary item. Katie is
Oh,
trying to
the
get-
current budget.
Hmm?
Yeah, they're in
Yes.
the current budget. Right,
Next
right, right.
fiscal year.
And it will be done. We do
Wait, but
not
what about
know.
the LED?
That's what we're,
Oh, that's what you're
Now,
still talking.
okay. Go on
Yeah,
there
give her a
next.
second. There's next, yeah.
we don't have a cost on that. Rosendale's only talking about it. They have not converted to LED lights. Katie is trying to get a hold of Central Hudson. Have you been successful yet?
I did speak to our representative from Central Hudson. He's supposed to write me a general proposal. I had hoped that I would have it today, but the minute it hits my desk, it'll be out to
So
the
that
trustees.
needs to be postponed to
Yep.
the budget hearing. Alright. Money has been budgeted in the new proposed budget
To
for
implement
all of the
the-
windows for the energy audit of 2004. Not everything, and the thermostats are done, but the other items, the doors, are going to be phased in. They are not in the proposed budget.
Some of the windows in DPW,
We're all in.
they're all,
They're in
oh,
the
sorry,
budget,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, you're right, never mind.
Windows and
I
thermostats.
know, I realized my mistake. Keep going, keep
Thermostats
going.
have already been budgeted for.
These
Yeah.
are newer thermostats since
But they're-
2004.
but they're not
They're not too
programmable.
good, right, yeah.
So those two
Those were
items
put in.
are being done. The big doors and there's
Do we
one
know?
other.
Do we know what kind of thermostats we're getting? I mean, I sent out that link to a list of prices.
For
Do
what?
we know? Do we know how much we're spending on thermostats specifically?
No, and Blue didn't say.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just wondering what we're getting because we kind of started talking about.
Well,
And I'm not necessarily in favor of more technology with like remote access control. I think like something more basic is probably better, but just being able to program it.
the additional costs, should a local referendum be needed on the November general election, just strike the question, it won't
There is
cost
no
us
additional
anything.
cost, right?
Okay, should the village determine, and we have, the conversion money to gas has been included.
It already has been?
It's in the budget. The
The
general,
vote passed, we were waiting, and we'll get to that obviously on tonight's agenda.
but I mean, if,
But the money's there because
The
the
money's
majority of
there.
the board voted. in favor.
$100,000 is in the budget, or there's going to be some kind of bonding.
the bonding already has been done for the generator.
But the generator is
Gas.
separate.
No, the
That's not
generator
the
runs on natural
conversion.
gas.
I know, but that's not the conversion that was approved.
Blue said the conversion money was there.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
That's all I know as well.
In this year's budget or next?
Next.
Next.
Jason is working on the retainer. $5,000 stays in for the retainer for the ZBA attorney and the
Planning board
planning
attorney.
board attorney.
Will Frank is writing that
Yeah,
for us right
and
now.
he's doing a contract, so that we don't need to add or subtract from that. Rebecca, did you get a chance to speak to the fire department?
I spoke to the chief and I communicated with Nancy. Nancy is, you know, whenever he can do it, and also Scott Schulte will also be a part of it.
So we don't have a figure yet?
No.
So I'll put that
No.
over here.
Yeah.
Okay?
But it's in the works
Okay.
almost like.
We discussed the big belly and we have agreed we will purchase one.
If that's amenable to the
Right,
board, is one
right.
okay?
Okay,
And we're thinking
yeah.
by the Plattekill Avenue lot, parking lot, where there's like 5 cars.
Okay.
Excuse me.
So, is it agreeable? I do not believe that we are gonna need to budget extra money for this, but Blue wants to budget it, so we'll do it.
Okay,
It's $4,500 for one.
okay.
It's
Motion.
one 3-unit.
Two
unit.
unit.
2 unit.
2 unit, and that's what I propose. Composting is not in the cards for this.
Why?
Because Rhinebeck says don't do it.
Oh,
They
okay.
had one
Because
compost.
I asked Jason if we were gonna contact Mike.
I had contacted Rhinebeck.
Yeah,
This
it was
is my
very
baby,
good coincidence, that meeting.
okay? Rhinebeck does not recommend composting because what they were finding in the one that they experimented with, it was getting all mixed up.
Okay.
So, motion to buy one.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
So that is done. That's 4,500, right, Jason? That's what they said
A
for
little
one.
less, but yeah, that's close enough.
Well, we think.
Good, close enough for government work.
Where is the money in the budget for the conversion? Because I mean, I looked through this
Okay,
and I
I'm
don't
gonna-
see anything. I mean, there's one thing that says Central Hudson, but that's electricity.
Conversion.
Yeah, it's about 65,000, that's electrical bill.
Yeah, exactly.
I put it on the list to make sure and double check with Blue. Okay. Okay. The parking meter changes are on the agenda and that's in this year's budget, so we don't need to worry about that. And the regatta liability insurance the village liability insurance already covers the regatta. That was a question that was asked.
And it does.
And it covers water accidents, as Jason pointed out, if we're on our half of the river.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's up to the town.
Anyway, so the question
The
is,
municipal boundary is right down the middle of the walkway.
the only question is, do you want to pay the $164 for the porta potty?
I'll move that we do so.
Second.
Any discussion?
Well, I mean, all right. I was talking to somebody about this today. Generally, not the porta potty, the regatta, and how I mean, okay, our village liability insurance covers it, but I really think that we should not be
sponsoring it.
I think that people shouldn't be going in that water. I yell at friends of mine for going kayaking there. I'm like, nobody should be in this. You know,
That's a separate
that is a
discussion.
separate discussion, but this is related. And if we're I said, well, maybe what we could do so that we could still have a nice celebration is have a float competition where people make a float, parade down Main Street, but we don't go in the water. And we can still have all the fun related things that are good about the regatta, but it costs us a lot less money. Well, it'll cost anybody a lot less money in terms of how long the parade is, because then we're not waiting for anyone to put in. So it's less burden on our fire department, less burden on our police department and our DPW and any volunteers that are working it, but we still get all the fun.
Well,
and none of the sickness, because I got sick
if
after I
it
was in
is
the
a
water.
village-sponsored event, the village pays the police for the traffic control, and that's not in the budget.
And it's the most expensive parade.
Okay, well, hold on.
So this is a separate conversation, but the Johnny on the spot would be in a different location or not exist
Right.
if we were doing a different kind
I
of.
just-
List for further discussion.
Not at all. I have a motion on the floor that I'd like a vote on.
Oh, that's right, you have the potty.
And this is discussion.
And this is the discussion phase, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So-
I don't want to get into a discussion of canceling the regatta.
Well, we haven't approved the regatta yet.
Okay, well, you
So
want
we're
to
not
upset
canceling
thousands of
anything.
people during the discussion of $160. I think we should separate the two issues out.
I'm just.
As of now, I'm sorry.
I'm just
I'm
throwing
sorry.
this
I
all
have
out
the
here.
floor right now. You know, I have the motion on the floor to spend $150 on a porta potty. A broader discussion on the health merits, public health merits of the regatta or not is sort of related, but not germane.
I have a
directly.
compromise.
Mm.
Will you accept the amendment that if the regatta occurs, we will pay for the boarding?
That is a wonderful example. I will amend my motion
All right.
that way.
Okay,
Will
say
you amend your
say that again,
second?
I'm sorry.
If the regatta is approved, we'll pay for the porta potty.
Okay.
Do you still second?
Sure.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good.
I'm glad. And
Nice.
it's 20 after 10 and I'm still going.
I know. Good. Go.
That's done that.
It's my birthday. I don't want to spend the whole
I
night
know.
here.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Okay. That one's executive session. Okay, that's that.
I have two other items that we have
Isn't
not
it?
discussed yet.
That's also not budget. Oh, this is just an item for your information. For future budgets, there will be a different budget line for planner and building department. We just shifted $3,800 around, which we told you about. I told you about that, and we're done.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd like to move to.
Nope.
Wait, do you have a budget?
I've got two items.
Okay. What do you got?
One is we budgeted for bus shelters last year.
Mhm.
I would like to do it again. I only thought of this last night because we were at TIC and
How much does that cost per? I mean, you can always bring it to the public hearing if you need time to get the numbers.
the number it was in our budget for this year, so Blue would know.
Okay.
I think it was 3,600 total.
I'll second adding that to the agenda.
But okay, because we've still been back and forth with the property owners, but I have a site visit scheduled with the DOT who has to approve the sites, and there's a couple of different ones. So this is
So
just
how many
been
you
a
looking
very
at?
slow.
One more?
There's what?
What are you asking to put into the budget? One more bus shelter? Two?
There's
Three?
2 bus shelters.
Two more in addition to what's in the shelter.
Already in there.
No, well,
No, because it'll go into
because
fund
it was a
balance.
one-time
He's not gonna
cost,
spend it.
was the installation, so if it wasn't spent last year, we have to put it in this year.
Oh, right. So just okay. It's a wash.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly,
okay.
yeah.
You just
So
moving it over.
I'll second it. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
But you need the exact figure from Nancy.
Yes, I believe
So
it's
that-
All right.
3,600.
What's the second one you said?
And the second thing is sidewalk funding.
I put in. I think 15,000.
That's, I mean, I was just looking at it again, and I think
Sidewalk
it was
reserve
10.
fund.
I put in something significant. I went from 5 to 10. I think. What did we do? What did we do for sidewalk?
We did 10 last year.
I might have put in 15 this year.
I don't think so, I just had it.
Well, then at least maybe
Oh.
I was considering it and didn't end up putting it in.
We talked about it.
We talked about it. Yeah, I thought it went in at a higher rate. Man.
Sorry, I just had this. I think it might have been the number I'm remembering is 16. Yeah, here we go, sidewalks. Sidewalks, the total is, for the tentative budget is 15,385. But it doesn't say reserve fund.
Well, sidewalk reserve is always, so there should be a balance in there plus if Jason adds
Right, but we want to
15.
add, I'm looking at the worksheets, I'm not looking at the.
Yeah, that's what you have to look at.
Yeah, I know.
Did Jason add 15,000 for next year?
Unless the sidewalk reserve fund is in a different place, I didn't see it anywhere else.
It shouldn't be in the
There's 2
general.
pages on
Look
sidewalk.
under The H
Let me
fund.
let me pull up
Look
the
under the H fund,
I think
not
this
not the A fund.
let me
The
pull up my
capital fund is
other
what you
because
want.
I have.
By the way, do you guys like the
documents
new
here.
budget sheets that I designed for this year?
Yep. I think they're much better.
Much easier to read, right?
And work with.
See, at least my art school degree didn't go to complete waste.
All right.
Well, hey, while we're looking at that,
Dab of page.
while you're looking for that, could I make a motion to set the public hearing on the budget for our next meeting at 7:30 p.m.?
So moved. Second.
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
No way. Oh, yeah.
Just whatever the next meeting is.
But don't we have to adopt the budget by March 31st?
No, we had to adopt the tentative by March 20th,
Right.
but we did that early.
We adopt
the
the
final
budget
by
has
May
to be
1st.
May 1st.
May 1st, we
Yeah,
have
okay.
for the final budget.
All right.
We're actually
And we can make
we're doing-
adjustments after the hearing.
Yes, and that night we can make adjustments right up until the final one.
Well,
So actually, we're actually making good time on this one.
I,
Huh?
Just not young.
all right. Ariana,
I'm still not
instead of
seeing it.
spending time doing this, why don't we ask
Nancy.
Nancy, what was added to the reserve fund from the fund balance, and what is the balance in the reserve fund for sidewalks? That's the easiest way to.
The
Yeah,
capital
I'm
fund.
looking. That's exactly what I'm looking at.
Oh, you are? But all right, so we're gonna ask Nancy, Ariana, is that okay?
Yeah.
Rather than do that tonight?
How much are you
Or
gonna-
if we have time, we can circle back and do that after we finish other
I don't
business.
think we'll find it.
No, I don't think so
Not
either.
what you did.
It's in a weird place, because I couldn't find it either when I was looking for it once.
Okay, so you want to add 15,000, Ariane?
Or
If
do you want it to
hasn't
be
been added?
15,000?
No, but sidewalk reserve is something we build upon.
No, I know, what contribution? You wanna make sure it's a 15,000 contribution?
I like 15,000. Yeah.
I think, yeah, what did we do about, we did either 10 or 15.
I think we.
You know, all right, let's, we don't, let's,
Yeah,
we'll
let's
find out
just
from
ask
Nancy.
Nancy.
Let's-
Yeah,
you're
that's what I'm
right. You're
making
right,
note.
Sally, let's stop wasting time.
Added, so we're going, the desired end is, do we all agree we want to add 15,000 to the sidewalk reserve
Yes.
fund if you didn't do it?
Yes.
Yeah.
If we didn't do
Yes.
it already.
Didn't do it.
So moved.
So
Okay, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And
Okay.
then you also
Awesome.
want to know the balance remaining.
yes, but that's less
Yeah, but that's,
because I
because you want to know if it's accumulating correctly.
right.
I understand.
All right, is that the end of your list?
I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay,
Those are my things.
I'm gonna just burn through a couple of things that are not discussion items really.
Okay.
Just to get them going off the agenda. Number 20, I move to approve the Penn Flex Service Award Program for the fire
Second.
department. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there anything else that's no brainer?
Yes.
Parking
Number
lot.
14.
Number 14 is what?
All right. Let me go back to my.
All right, let's just go down the list. And the next thing we have to do is 11, discussion of the energy audit. And just let me know, if you want to table something, just let me know.
So I've been doing a lot of research, speaking with renewable energy companies, just kind of trying to think about what, if we're spending $100,000, what can we get for $100,000? What can we get for $200,000? What can we, what are we doing in terms of planning for the future? And what I have found, the best thing for us to do is a renewable energy audit, which is a multi-pronged approach where somebody would come, independent auditor that specializes in renewable energy, if we want to do some renewable energy in New Paltz, and be the leader, like this community has been in the past in New York State. And we can have them look at the building as is and say what would work best, where, maybe it's some solar, some wind, some, and they can look at our other properties as well. For instance, the drinking water treatment plant, if we wanted to do something up there and get that to be running off the grid, we could probably do that pretty easily with the space that we have up there. So, these are the things that I want us to think about. I obviously didn't get cost estimates or go out looking
So
for
can we
companies.
table those till you do?
No, I want commitment that we would like me to do this, and
IRC submitted proposal under your request?
maybe they weren't Flex Tech. I don't know.
So we already have the energy audit, but it's.
But this is different from an energy
Yeah,
audit.
she's asking.
An energy audit looks at whether or not we are being efficient, and they look at things like insulation, windows, thermostat,
Right.
stuff like that. This would be something to see
A renewable energy audit.
what we are, what kind of renewable readiness we have as
So
the
what do you
village of
want
New
from
Paltz.
us tonight?
I want tacit approval that I should
No, you want
find.
explicit approval.
Well, no, because I
You
want,
don't
I
have
want,
permission for tacit approval.
I want you to tell me that you would like me to move forward with this search.
All right, I'll second. Sally moved, I seconded. Any discussion?
And yes, I just want Ariana to know we discussed this outside of a meeting, and I did find someone in Gardner who
Awesome.
does solar installations, et cetera, and he's very much on board for
Okay.
helping us out
So,
with this.
all in
And I
favor?
think that you could also get the fellow, what's his name, your old friend that wanted to do the solar field out at.
Randolph Horner? Randolph, yeah.
Randolph, yeah.
Well, Randolph and a few other people. But I'll move.
It's been moved and seconded. I've actually called the vote already. Waiting
Yeah,
for
but
people
you
to vote.
didn't even hear the motion, you just seconded
I
it.
know. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Number 12, Ari.
I've also been talking to a lot of people about the natural gas conversion, and I've been told by contractors and people who know HVAC systems that we have a very high bid in front of us, and that it makes sense that we do since we only have one and it was not a competitive bidding process, and that we should go through that process if we want to convert to natural gas to at least get a better cost estimate.
That's a
And-
good discussion point.
So I don't know
Okay, so
if
Katie,
people
could you
would like
make
to
a
do
note?
that.
Katie, could you make a note to get?
I don't even really want to do that because I don't want to convert anyway. But if we're
I
going
know.
to convert, I want us to do it in the most fiscally responsible way we can, even if I don't think it's fiscally responsible to begin with.
Fair enough. Katie, will you please make a note to have Lou respond to that question? Thank you.
And I agree with Ariana still.
Speaking of things.
Can we, oh wait, no, I'm sorry, I want to keep us on the
Yeah.
agenda.
Yep.
Number 14, discussion of the shut-off at 701 Briar Court. Is there, someone want to make a motion?
I think we can't do anything but build them.
I agree.
They gave.
I feel.
I know, but Ariana,
My heart.
they gave them a day to come in without penalty, and they didn't do it. I mean, if you told me, Sally, I know things are hard, I'll give you another day. If you come in, I won't put the penalty on. And you just unilaterally decide you're not coming the next day, you're gonna come later. That's a problem, because I don't think that's fair to the rest of this community. There are lots of people with, and I think, really, I think our employees bent over backwards to.
I agree that our employees did. I just might like. Whatever.
What would you want to do? What would you want to do? Tell us, what would you like to do?
I'm really torn.
But it's 10:30. Can we make a decision about which direction you're torn in?
What would you
Oh,
like
she wants to forgive it.
Yeah.
to forgive it?
Well, I mean, I just feel really bad about it.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion, to deny their request and to build in the amount. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there more discussion? We'll see what the vote goes.
Is there any alternative?
I don't.
What alternative would you suggest?
The alternative is to forgive it.
It's simply to forgive. So it's either forgive it or build them the entire amount with the prospect of giving them a schedule on which they would pay. Say $25 a month. Can we do that?
I don't think you can do that.
You can't do that?
We can't give them some kind of payment process.
Why not?
Like a payments.
How much do they owe? $75? You wanna give them a payment plan on
I
$75?
would give them 25, 25, 25. They have to come up with it every month, or they build the entire amount.
Oh, you're talking about the penalty
The
itself.
penalty, yeah. I'm open to
I
that.
could do that.
That's fine, yeah.
I'll withdraw my motion. Someone make a motion about this at some point. It doesn't matter that
Ariana,
much to me.
move it.
What is it? Is it 75? I thought it was 50.
I thought it was more, but.
No, I thought it was
You're gonna space out a $50 pay? Oh, all right, I'm sorry. I'll shut my mouth.
If it,
Good idea. here.
The one
I'm
that says
shutting
it
my
needs
mouth.
it.
Make the motion.
Make a motion
Make
already,
a
that's what I'm saying.
Well, I want to make sure that it's 50 before I want to pull up the
Here.
letter.
Why don't you just say that they pay that $25 a month
Ariana?
until the total is paid?
No, that doesn't do it. Where is the thing?
$50 penalty, yes. Yeah, so I think I will move to have a payment plan of $25 a month for the 2-month period to pay off this penalty.
Is there a second?
And what
Wait,
happens if
can I
they don't?
amend?
Second.
With the first payment in April, the second payment in May?
Yes, I accept that amendment.
Any other discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay?
Aye.
All right, do we need to talk about number 17?
No, we got that thing.
Thank you.
All I need is, we had talked about this, I now know who it is that the mayor needs to write to at DOT asking permission for the Village of New Paltz to install 3 poles for directional signs for our businesses to get rid of the sandwich board problem. And so there will be a pole probably 50 feet before the intersection of North Front and Main, about 30 feet, I think, at the church and at the corner of where Pegasus is for Ligusta Chocolate. And so, I now know who it is. I
Okay.
have enough merchants interested who will pay for their signs. We just need DOT permission.
Just give it to Katie, actually, so she can
Okay,
have it.
here's who we contact for that.
All right, so we don't need any action?
Nope.
Okay.
18, all I need is a motion to authorize the money that's in this year's budget
So
for
moved.
moving and reprogramming.
Second.
Okay.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And,
19 is yours too, Sally?
huh?
Yeah.
19 is yours too, Sally, yeah.
Yep, and 19 is I want authorization, and we don't need, this is not a code change. I just need authorization to change that meter. It'll cost $750 for the program chip, and that's in the budget, to allow 4-hour parking in the municipal lot, which is increasing it by
Second.
2 hours. And we're charging 50 cents, so we don't need to do
Yeah.
anything about that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I move we go into executive session to discuss personnel matters.
Just a minute. Katie
Oh.
left off what I needed to tell you quickly, because you sent me an email about it. I told the Methodist Church, we can't paint, I talked with Blue, we don't want to start painting parking spaces on side streets.
Okay.
Okay. As far as their request, if they're having an event at church going on and they need, their workers need to be there more than 2 hours, my suggestion is that they just put from the minister something on their dashboard.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And we need, I will include and have, we'll check the ordinance designating their handicap, they have a handicap parking space with a curb cut that's never been designated, so if we're gonna do
No, we
the
gotta
2
clean that
hours,
up.
we'll designate it,
Okay,
okay?
So
Is
no
everybody
action.
happy?
great. So let's go into executive session. Very, very briefly.
Are you sending the videographer home?
Yes.
Yes. I'll be right back. I
Oh, no,
got.
wait, do you wanna do budget?
You can go home now.
We can't let her go because.
I think you
I'm
need
not
to.
her. The camera guy.
Okay.
Camera guy. I gotta run to my car. I need something to give you guys. It's not a.